Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, A Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Chris Wouters, Sea Level Cultist, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Jason Hornsby, J Mel's 24, Unimento, Iron 26, Endless, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hey.
Hello.
Like old times. Go starting. Don't have to wonder about it. Monday comes, boom, showtime. How you feeling?
I'm alright. How are you?
I'm good, but as far as your that issue you had, everything's all good now?
Not quite. I'll give it another 2 weeks before I tell you conclusively.
So you're still on antibiotics?
No, I finished the course last week, but it hasn't fully taken the pain away, so I may go back if it doesn't dissipate over the next couple of weeks.
Well, I'm afraid that everything goes well. What'd you think of Saturday's show?
I can't even remember what did we? I can't remember what we did. What did we cover?
The ball
QE show.
Yeah.
Man, I was thoroughly disappointed in God damn it, what's his name? The guy, the 24/7 guy. There we go. Yeah, his name slipped me for some reason. India. I thought he did horribly.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
No, I don't think see, I was just listening to QE show. And when I said that I like Nathan because when somebody butchers science, Nathan sets them straight. I was not, pointing towards Indio. I was pointing to the guy he's debating. But Indio should have set him straight. Like, I don't know, I'm spoiled. I'm so used to Nathan. When somebody comes in with their nonsense of science, Nathan sets them straight what it is and what it isn't.
I mean, me personally, I have the science acumen of like a house cat. I don't know shit either. But just being here, I instantly know when something is or isn't, scientific. Like that's the one thing I can take away. Like I'm still not good at it, but I instantly know if it is or isn't right away, just based off of knowing what it actually is. And a lot of people they get confused on it. Like the guy said, first step to scientific method is observation. Okay, so I see a red bucket. Now what? Now we're going to do science? It's stupid. I mean, I'm not going to go start doing scientific experiments and getting, prizes and shit and papers published. But at the same time, I know instantly when something isn't, and that's important.
I just on a whim watched the movie Idiocracy again today, so it's put me in perspective.
But what exactly are electrolytes?
What are neutrinos, Nathan?
Oh yeah.
They're what plants crave, man.
Ow. Ow.
There's actually so much predictive programming in that movie. It's worth watching.
No.
And it's quite painful.
Like that's the first time Crocs ever made a public appearance. Those rubber shoes. I don't know if they wear them in Europe, but like they're huge in America. They're just like molded rubber shoes, and someone designed them, and they couldn't sell them. So that movie bought them all as props for all the prisoners to wear. And they're like, these things are so stupid and ugly. Nobody would ever wear them, and now they're like the most popular thing. I mean, shit, that's the only shoes my kids wear. Well, my 2-year-old. My older girl, she can like tie her shoes down again. Little things like that is funny because I just watched that movie for the first time with my wife about 3 months ago, and I didn't realize it was going to be so Beavis and Buttheady. Like, she
What
thought it
what
was funny though, but she doesn't swear and use foul language and stuff. So I
what
didn't think she
shoes
was
are you
actually going to
talking
watch it.
about?
Good.
No, it should be required watching.
What shoes are you talking about? You said
Crocs.
something about rubber shoes. You're talking
Crocs.
about Crocs?
Crocs. Yeah,
Oh, all right.
Crocs. I'm sure you got a pair, Neil. You're in Alabama.
I'm wearing them right now. I had a pair in New York. I'll tell you what's bad though. You got Crocs on, and there's a little bit of water on the surface, and let's say you walk into a parking lot and you step on, you know how they get the parking spaces with their yellow painting, you know, separating each spot. If you step on one of those, you are losing your footage.
See, I'm a complete nutcase. I cannot wear Crocs or flip flops or sandals or anything in public. If I'm in public, I have to have shoes that are tied to my feet. Otherwise, I feel incredibly vulnerable. It's weird.
Yeah, because if you get into you always, this is what I tell my kids. You don't know what you're going to run into on the street. So when you're out and about, you be tied up. Because if something goes off, you don't want to be tripping over your shoes, losing a shoe in the middle of a fight.
Exactly. And I've been in about 0 public street fights in my entire life, but in my mind, it's always around the corner. You never know.
Not even that. Say you gotta flee a certain area. Something's going on. You got to flee. You don't want to be in flip flops or Crocs.
You want to have Keds sneakers on. They have that red dot on the back and make you run faster. I don't think any of you youngsters know Keds.
We had here's
Yeah,
the
that's
thing.
awesome.
When I grew up in Brooklyn, this was the stages you went through. You had pro kids; those were like the big thing. But there had to be the pro kids that had the double line going around the side. Couldn't have the single line because the single line was the cheap ones. After pro kids, it was either pro kids or Converse All Star. You know the canvas ones. And you knew when somebody was working and making money because then they had the Puma. If you had a pair of Puma on, you were the man. And then Nike came over and
Now
took everything over.
Converse had to be the high tops, right?
Chuck Taylor's high top Converse. Yep. You know what they're going for now? Those are like over $60 in the store.
They still canvas.
Yeah, I just bought a pair 2 days ago for like $40. They were on clearance.
Yeah, but that was the order. And it was either Puma or Adidas. You know, shell top Adidas were big too. But then when Nike came out, I remember because they had like the flip version the logo. It was similar to Puma, but theirs was turned the other way. So I was like, what is this? And it was blue suede, the first Nike that I had. Way before Jordan, way before the 80s. It's like 78, 79. Yeah, people didn't even know how to say it. Nike, Nike.
I'm pretty sure it's Nike. I've never heard anyone pronounce it as Nickies.
Doesn't matter.
Isn't
When they
Nike
first came
a
around,
isn't
people didn't
Nike
know what to call it.
Greek? Isn't Nike a Greek god?
The heck knows? I don't know these things.
I think
All
those
I
are
know
also
is you need them
missiles.
to walk on flat Earth. They don't have a certain curve to them, so they wouldn't be good on a spherical Earth. So just the fact that the soles of your feet prove that Earth is flat. I wanted to ask you, Nathan, they didn't even bring up measurements at all on Saturday. It's a 4-hour thing. I'm not going to listen to it. I don't think QE's going to get through the whole thing, so I will eventually listen to it. But what bothered me is Indio's opening statement was beautiful. When the guy said, "You think the earth is flat?" He said, "I'd say I know it's flat." But that was it. Why don't you tell him how you know it's flat? Without a doubt. There is no more debating this subject anymore because the earth is flat. Everybody knows the earth is flat, and this is how. Like we do. Nope.
Hmm. From my own personal experience, Indio doesn't like that argument because he tried to rip me a new one
Freaking
once. He goes,
argument.
"Okay, smart guy, how do you take an elevation angle with the mirror intersection on top of a mountain?" And
He's an
I'm like,
idiot if he's
"Fuck,
saying that.
huh?"
I just got that
He's a
exact same argument just the other day. Is that like the latest thing? If you're on the side of a mountain, how can you take a sextant reading?
No, it's
Exactly.
not. We've been hearing that for a while now. And if that's Indio's stance that he don't like that argument, he's a freaking idiot because it's not an argument, number one. It's just a process of how
Right.
things are done.
No, that's correct. It really isn't. I shouldn't use the term argument for that, but no, it. I hate to say it, but like all my experience with 24/7 people in the British hub or whatever, they don't like the elevation angle proofs. And I hate to say it, but I think what it all boils down to is they didn't come up with it. Therefore, certain people came up with it. Not that Nathan or anyone here came up with it. They just more or less popularized it as a good talking point for a proof. It's always been there for all of human history, but it's just the
There
I
you
don't
go.
know.
Bingo.
You know what it is?
Correct.
It's like when one group comes up with something, the other group's gonna like, nah, we don't like that because we're not into the people that came up with it. That I feel like that's really the big issue with that, with the elevation angles and cell nav and stuff, is the fact that they don't like the personalities that have popularized it. Therefore, they automatically think it's not a good thing to talk about. It's stupid. It's really dumb.
So go into idiocracy with somebody who's a pseudoscientist. What does he declare himself as anyway? A mathematical physicist? So you want to go intellectual with this guy when he's not an intellectual. You're trying to match wits with him so you could show, oh, I know what neutrinos are. Who gives a shit what neutrinos are? They prove Earth is flat too, you dumbass.
Again with the neutrinos, I have no idea what that even is.
There's just a
They're
lot of
very
people who
difficult.
have invested a
Yeah.
lot of time and hours into researching things that they think make them smart and
Well,
make them
neutrinos.
knowledgeable about the topic.
Well, that's a waste of time.
And they don't want to waste.
Neutrinos, number one, they're hard. They're almost impossible to detect, but they're very easy to track. From what this cat is saying, that's why Nathan's right. QE's immediate question: give me scientific evidence of your ball tot or your globe. Let's start right there, so we could shoot them down right there, because they're going to come up with something. Then right away, this idiot thinks geometry science. So let's straighten him out right now.
Usually the first thing they do is just reverse the burden.
Well, that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to put Indio on a model so you can compare his model of what the sun and the moon and the stars are doing compared to Indio's flat Earth model. We know that. This is what he's trying to do.
I usually
it's
just try to
irritating
lead
because, oh, sorry.
with no, it's okay. I just try to lead off with measuring your latitude with Polaris. I've got somebody that literally will not take a simple, build a little protractor and a straw and a plumb bob, make a little personal sextant, will not go and measure his latitude to Polaris. It's the simplest thing you can do. I've said over and over again, you don't need any globe earth habersign calculation, blah, blah, blah. Just measure an elevation angle to Polaris, and it'll be your latitude. Welcome to flat Earth. He will not do it. There's some way that there's a trick there that I'm missing because I'm a flat tard. It's very frustrating.
That is simple to do. I mean, all you need is like a nice flat level table. Put your protractor on. Put your eye at the base of the protractor and line up your arm. And like from where I'm at, Polaris will be at 32 degrees. I go to the roof of my house, do the same thing, 32 degrees. I climb a tree, say it's always going to be 32 degrees. It's
Oh,
just
and
simple.
gosh, that's what your latitude is, right?
Yeah.
GPS. Yeah. That's the
They want
response.
to
It's
use.
like,
They
well,
want to use.
GPS.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the response is usually that, I say, look, this is your latitude. You measure an angle to Polaris, and there's your latitude. And the answer is the comeback is either, well, what about the southern hemisphere? Or, well, when you looked up your GPS or you looked up your latitude on Google, that comes from GPS.
Well,
It literally is.
I like
point out,
it.
Yeah.
I
out
like
this
it when they
flat
say, "What
too.
about the southern hemisphere?" Because then I'll go, okay, so you're in the southern latitudes. How do you what do you use to acquire your latitude then? And half the people will say sigma octantis, which is stupid because it's not true. And then the other half will be, oh, you got to extrapolate between the Southern Cross and Orion's belt, and it's all extrapolation from other stars that are visible from this. Because I mean, if I go out and see Orion, someone in Australia can go out and look at Orion at the same time. I know what the angle distance is between Orion and Polaris. And that's how you extrapolate out further once you go beyond the equator. But there was a time this past winter where a whole bunch of flat earthers were trying to tell me that you use sigma octantis, and I noticed they've reversed on that, and that's not really it. Because I was listening in a couple weeks ago, and I heard people who were 100% telling me sigma octantis is used the exact same way. They're now reversed what they were saying, and now they're saying, well, sigma octantis isn't actually even visible at all. So I don't
All right,
know.
let me ask you a
A little
question.
weird coding going
Hold on.
on
Let me hold
after
on.
Darren and them went.
Yeah, is my mic
What?
coming through?
Well,
So
yeah,
you
but it
mean
was
to
coming
tell
through
me?
right in the middle of my sentence.
No, you stopped for at least 3 seconds. So you mean to tell me that everything we measure in the north is flat, but it don't apply to the south? Really? So this is where they're going now. So the north is flat, but the south is spherical.
That's a good point. I actually, it's pretty succinct. I'm gonna steal
It's
that.
a little pudgier at the bottom.
Once
You know,
you've
like pear
established
shaped.
any distance refutes their supposed distance, it's over. I don't care what the hell's going on in the south. If you're telling me I have thousands and thousands of miles of flat in the north, it's game over, buddy.
Oh, but wait, can you tell me the height of your Polaris star?
Well, I could tell you that if you
That's
stay in
the
height in the first place, you're using it from a flat plane. That's how you establish heights. You know, you
oh,
measure
yeah. Well,
them.
how high is Polaris?
That's the other thing. Like what Neil just said. Like height requires a flat plane, and it gets really, really. This is why I stopped going on Discord for the longest time, because if you say that in the other servers, what do they say? Oh, you're slogan chanting. They just start claiming that you're slogan chanting by saying that. It's like, wait, just because you don't comprehend that height requires a horizontal plane of reference means it's slogan chanting now? Because something so simple and so like paint by numbers that any 5-year-old can comprehend if you just draw an angle on a piece of paper. But now we got to call it slogan chanting. It's ridiculous.
No, it just makes me feel proud.
Not to throw anyone under the bus, but you know, AI, for instance, you say anything like that, oh, height requires horizontal plane of reference. He'll pipe up and be like, hey, why don't you stop slogan chanting and actually give these ballers some proof? And it's like, shut up, dude.
Is he a
Sorry.
retard? So he actually said that. AI Overlord actually said, why don't you give them some proof after that was laid out for them? He's a freaking retard, and I have to start thinking that this guy's some sort of an agent.
No.
Indio's no different.
What I
DJ's no
specifically
different.
heard him say.
Jedi's no. Did they all do that?
Listen,
Everybody
bro.
from that
First
group
of
does
all, I
that.
heard you lie a couple of times, so chill out. Now, first of all, I specifically heard AI say, "Don't just say something and then not back it up and not cite it, because then you're no different than anyone else, and that's why you guys
Okay,
don't know
Eli.
anything when you're pushed."
Eli,
What do you
does
have to
height
cite?
require a horizontal plane of
Not
reference
like
for
What do
height
you
to
have to
exist?
cite, Eli? What do you
Well,
have to cite?
you know how Nathan cites sustainable by design.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Something as simple as that. People just say, not everyone, because again, he's saying that, but even DJ posts in the chat. Everybody's posting in chat when a conversation is going on, relevant information. But I hate
Eli, I
defending.
forgot you're
I hate
omnipresent
coming
and
from
always
a
around everywhere. Whenever I enter a server, you're always just going to be there listening, just so you can call me a liar. Is that what's going on now?
I'm out.
no,
That's not what he said.
that's
It's not
not what
what
I
he
said.
said.
Thank
He's
you.
just
Thank
saying,
you.
it
You
would help
just
if you
said I was
validated.
lying.
Hold on. Then you two can go at it. That's not what Eli said when he came in here. I thought he did too, but
You
he
just
said
called me
this
a
at least
liar like
validate it
30
like
seconds
Nathan
ago.
does with sustainable by design. Right? He puts it in there. So if people are coming in and just saying, well, I bet you for flat earth and that's it, then it is a problem.
Well, wait a second. So saying that height requires a horizontal frame of reference is a problem unless I provide citation for that? When it's just Isn't that like an axiom principle of height to have a horizontal under it to measure the height from it? Why would I
Yeah,
need to
but
go any further? It's just, I
his
don't
point
understand.
is that, but his point was that you should be able to.
Should be able to what? Say that I have to prove further that height requires a horizontal plane of reference for the height to be measured.
Well, you didn't prove it by saying it. First of all, it's an axiom, so you're not proving anything. You're not even at best explaining that it's an axiom.
Correct.
What are you talking about? In order for something to be measured with height, with a value of distance off the horizontal, it needs to have the horizontal. It's self-explanatory.
I guess not to everybody though. That's his
I guess
point.
I got to
But
break up
I
the
don't
coloring
think I
books
don't agree with
or the
that
smoke
either.
kits, and I don't
Hold on.
understand.
So are we
Baxi.
And
talking
I don't
to
get
are
why
we
Eli
talking to
always
flat
has to have
earthers? Are we
hostile
talking to
female
flat
energy
earthers
towards
that
me.
know or like on this show? Are we talking to an audience that had to be educated, like all of us?
But hold
Can
on,
we
Baxi.
just
One
go
second,
ahead?
Baxi. Hold on 1 second. Eli, you know damn well there's something with AI overlord. I don't give a shit what you say. He's been coming in for years.
That's got
Doesn't
nothing to
like
do
how
with
we
that's not.
operate
I
over
wouldn't have
here.
opened my mouth if that's what you said. I
He
don't care
does
about
not
that.
like the way we operate here.
Do you hear what I
Always has
just said?
issues with everything.
Do you hear what I
No,
just
I didn't
said?
hear you.
If you were saying that, I would have never came off mic because I don't care about any of that stuff. But when I hear him say, these guys, they slogan chant or whatever, whoever said that to him, listen, even DJ, I've heard him talk about elevation angles. I've seen him post stuff. Like the stuff that he's saying is not happening actually does happen. So whatever beef we do have, we don't need to be having beef over shit that's not true. How well do you? I don't even know who this guy is really. I'm just saying.
You don't know who is. I just thought it was weird that I was called a liar for something I said, which wasn't a lie.
So Eli, you don't know who you're talking to right now? Come on. That seems a little bit disingenuous. You know it's Waxy Waxy.
Oh, then I don't like him. You already know that.
That's fine. You don't have to like me. I'm not in no popularity contest.
Sorry to interrupt. Right wing vegan. Can you go on mute? You're causing feedback.
Yeah, it's funny, Eli.
Thank you.
So I'm just confused by Eli's statement. Like, if you say that height requires a horizontal reference frame, we have to now what do I have to prove? Like, how do I have to go about proving that height requires a horizontal reference frame
You,
for
you
the
don't
height
you
to
don't
exist?
prove
I don't.
it. I mean, you don't prove it unless you're gonna prove that the Earth is horizontal. But that's again not talking about the axiom. But at best or at worst, Nathan provides some kind of citation. You're just talking about
Okay,
crying
why would
about
I need to
having to
provide
do
a
that.
citation that
So
height requires a horizontal when it's
then don't.
obvious that
I'm
height
not your
only
I'm
exists
not
with
your
the
father.
horizontal?
Don't do it then. Do what you want to do, bro. What do you want me to say?
Then, okay, so what's your beef then? I don't understand why you're being aggressive about it. Other than the fact you don't like me, which is fine. I mean, if you don't like me, you could take a lot of
He,
things that I say as an annoyance, which I think
he
or less.
came in to validate AI Eagle Lord because Eli's still connected to him somehow. He hasn't
He's
he
his
hasn't cut the
buddy. That's
umbilical
fine.
cord yet.
If you think you can gaslight someone with the wit of mine, you're insane. I know what I said and I know what I
Now
didn't
you're
say.
accusing me of gaslighting? What am I gaslighting?
I think he's talking to me.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So Eli,
Yeah,
you have cut the umbilical cord?
because he knows I'm done with you, and there's no getting any more blood out of that stone. So he's trying to incite a little more.
Oh shoot! He called you a stone.
How dare you call me a stone? I'm concrete, not a stone. There's a difference. Well, anyway, that got stupid for no reason.
See, Eli, that's the thing.
I'm
Remember when I used to say two camps? Hold on, Baxi. Remember when I used to say two camps? It's tough because you go to 24/7. You got guys there that you're in battle with. Then you got your guys here, but here supersedes anything. You know that. I know you do. But when somebody comes in and throws a dagger at ego lord, you feel like you got to come in and set it straight. I get it.
Well, didn't Eli just prove my point? I said height requires a horizontal plane of reference for the height to even exist. And then Eli pretty much just said I was slogan chanting right now because I didn't provide a citation. Like, well, what is that? That's messed up. So you just did the exact same thing I accused AI of being guilty of, and you just did it yourself, Eli. Good job.
Did you hear me do that on this recorded live stream in the last 10 minutes, Neil? Did you hear me say that?
Okay, Eli, height requires a horizontal plane of reference in order for the height to exist. In order for height to exist, you have to have a horizontal plane. Is that slogan chanting or is that just a fact?
Okay, so now you have to ask me if I did say what you just claimed that I said. Okay,
Well,
I
you
did think
kind
you
of
were on crack.
you kind of
Now I know
like
you're on
had
crack.
you took umbrage with
Okay.
what I said as if I wasn't
So
able to back it up with anything. That I'm just saying, oh, I'm just saying height requires a horizontal, therefore slogan chanting. I didn't
so the
provide a
cocaine was
citation for that.
going. So the cocaine was going on. When did the crack come in for you?
Easy, guys. Let's leave the drugs out of it.
That wasn't even a good insult. That literally had nothing to do with anything. You're just saying words now, dude. Oh, crack. Okay, dude.
So
Sure.
Neil, did you hear me say what he said I said?
No,
Oh,
because
right, because he's a crackhead. That's why.
you really don't like him, huh?
It's because I tell him he has female energy. Because he does. He's like a whiny female. The way he acts, the way he behaves, the way he gets upset at the drop of a hat.
Eli, you gonna let that happen? Oh my goodness, man. Calling a guy from Brooklyn a female?
I'm a public figure. He's saying things that people know are obviously incorrect. So I mean, why would I care?
Well, it's not obviously incorrect to me. It's my personal opinion after observing how you behave. You act like a female.
Yeah, but you're a douchebag. I don't care what you think.
Eli, it
Yeah, but
takes
at
a
least I'm a
female to
man.
know a
Like I'm
douchebag.
not a
That's
douchebag who
Okay.
acts like a girl.
Enough.
wasn't good, Eli.
So, isn't the problem with girly men that they can't get girls? That's not my problem. So I don't even care if I was girly.
That's true. Eli's always with girls. That's one
Who
thing.
cares?
Anytime Eli's witnessing, he says, I was telling my friend, and it's always a she. Eli gets the girls, man.
Yeah. Okay, that's female behavior too, to be with many girls and not picking one and starting a family.
Oh my god.
I'm done. I'm sorry. That was bad. I apologize. I'm done.
Uh,
He just said King Solomon is a girl. You gonna let that happen, Neil? You like that?
that's a good one. That's a good one, man. He had something like 1,000 concubines. That means you're calling King Solomon a girly girl.
Oh, snap.
And it's known that King Solomon was the wisest man on earth.
Nah, he just had good PR people.
Hey, did you know that? Well, I'm sure we all live in America, but it's the government is made up of 3 part, right? Legislative, executive, and judicial. That's exactly how it's taken in. If you're looking when Jesus opened up the scriptures to in Luke, he opened up to Isaiah 61, I think. If you continue reading on, he talks about how he is our lawgiver. He is our judge, and he is our king. 3 part governmental system.
Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now, we are joined by Essential Goat, Neil, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
How are you?
I'm all right, Neil. How are you?
Not so good, but we'll leave it alone.
How are you, Eli, you big girly man? Eli was accused of being girly in the pre-show.
I'm sorry for that.
Thank you.
Very amusing. How are you, Essential? Haven't heard from you yet.
I'm tired, mate. Just woke up. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Slightly finer fettle than last week. Good. Not great. I'm okay.
Good.
Gotta give Central Goat some credit because he's been saying refraction for months. And sure enough, that's what's going on. Shout out to Central Goat.
What do you mean he's been saying refraction for ages? Saying that our opponents will use that as a rebuttal?
Yeah, he comes in with his little schneid remark, refraction. And sure enough, that's what we got Flat Earthers talking about. Refraction indexes, and all things like that.
Okay. I don't see
That's
any
what
issue
the
with
black
that.
swan does to you.
What's wrong with that? People want to talk about refraction. Snell's law. Snell's law is real. Refraction is real. Globe refraction over R, 7/6 of it, isn't refraction. It's a mathematical derivation of an R value that they apply to our argument when taking apart their use of a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator when comparing a view you get through a camera to mathematics where Earth curve only exists in said mathematics and has a 7/6 of said radius derivation that they then call refraction. That isn't refraction. That's terrestrial refraction, otherwise known as a derivation of an R value that only exists in maths. Refraction is Snell's law. It requires two different mediums and a boundary layer. It's the light moving between the boundary layer and changing direction as it does so. It's described in Snell's law. That's refraction.
Well, what's going on in Skunk Bay, Nathan? Huh?
I mean, what's going on in Skunk Bay?
Have you not seen the video? What kind of flat earther are you?
I don't know what's going on in Skunk Bay. Why would I need to explain what's going on in Skunk Bay?
They're going to laugh you to scorn.
Right, because I don't know what's going on in the Skunk Bay imagery from 10 years ago. I'm going to get laughed at. All right, I don't care. Why would I need to explain it was my question.
Yeah, that was my question, too, when I was confronted with it. It means nothing. When you know Earth is measured flat, all of this stuff is nonsense.
I mean, in recent years, we've had concessions from our opponents. Like, quite explicit concessions in regards to the reality of how Earth gets surveyed. Now, those concessions come with certain disclaimers, like, yes, Earth is measured flat locally, but at a large scale, it is claimed by our opponents that Earth curvature is taken into consideration. Incorrect. Brian's been going on about this for quite some time. Now, he always references his father-in-law, who is a geodesic surveyor. Now, if you take the information that they utilise to measure elevation, they take horizontal distance measurements. So, they're measuring Earth flat at all scales. when we survey Earth, it is flat. Now, this isn't up for contention. It's not up for debate. It is what it is. Now, if you decide that you want to infer that after measuring Earth flat at the local scale, or after measuring Earth flat at the larger scale with horizontal distances for trig to work, you can contest it all you like. But the trig won't work unless you've got a horizontal distance. Now, that's not a debate. That's not me suggesting we survey Earth flat. It is a statement of absolute fact. Earth is measured flat at all scales.
So I guess that's what Eli means when you bring up the measurements, that you're well versed in how to do it, Nathan, how to lay it out just like that. That's perfect. So if that's what they're looking for, they can always come to Flat Earth Debate Live every morning.
People like is servitude the right word? Where they are subservient to their rulers, teachers, masters. That's servitude. Have I got the right word? People like being in a position when they kowtow to the authority that's given them the information in the first place. It is whatever embarrassing to relinquish a previously held belief as being exactly that, a belief. But for me now, 10 years into this subject, I don't care. You know, I've lost all sympathy for these idiots. We're telling you, we're not asking you, we're not inviting you to debate with us anymore. That time has passed. People don't seem to understand that. I'm now telling you how it is. Now, you can respond by chanting at me that you know it's a ball because you've known for 1,000 years. You can do that. But it won't alter how Earth is measured, will it?
Nope, not at all.
It's just a question of time. I'm amazed that we've gone this far, measuring Earth flat in every single example, still believing it's a ball. I'm amazed that people who measure Earth flat at all scales can buy into the religion of a ball, but my amazement doesn't change the Western world's religion of a ball. There's a Western world religion of a ball that's now spread throughout the entire known world. And there's not a great deal we can do about it, suppressed into this corner. But that's life. I know it's flat. Everyone who's watching knows it's flat. The people who don't like it want to tell me that they've known for 1,000 years it's a ball. Good for you. You know that it's a ball in spite of it being measured flat. Good for you.
Yeah, and that's a great attitude to take, but it seems like, what do you call it? Hope. Because they keep coming to our service trying to tell us how, no, you don't understand. It's been known for thousands of years that Earth is a sphere. And it seems like they cannot leave us alone. I don't go to their service, but they come here. Guys like people like Danny Faulkner, you know, guys that have a little title. So I think it's cope because, like you said, they know it's measured flat.
Yes, but they have their justifications for why being measured flat is okay on a ball. For example, but not limited to, Simon Dan. Well, yes, okay, on the short distances, we do survey Earth as flat, but we don't only measure it flat. That's their justification. So, okay, so it's okay to measure a ball flat. In no circumstances is it ever acceptable to measure a ball flat at any scale ever, because they're not flat ever. We do measure it flat at all scales without exception. Brian's joined, presumably because he's heard his name mentioned about his father-in-law doing surveys. Or not.
No, I don't have one in it. I wasn't listening at all.
Well, that's just rude.
Well, I can't do anything about that.
Just wake up, Brian.
Apologise.
Okay, well, the subject at hand, Brian, is the horizontal distance measurements utilised on the larger scales beyond about, 90 miles? I think it's 250 square kilometres, something like that. But above absolutely, without question, above 100 miles, you're no longer using plane surveying. But you're still measuring heights with horizontal distances.
You are. You're using plane surveying, no matter what the distance. This thing about there being planar surveying and geodetic surveying and they're different. No, it's just geodetic surveying generally deals with bigger areas, but they're still using, like, they can't not do planar surveying. All their processes and techniques and equipment is based around planar surveying. My mother's partner, he used trigonometry all the time. He discussed it in depth with me, from mountain to mountain, like all trigonometry. Not like that's what he did. But if you're measuring the angular size of a mountain at a distance, you must use a horizontal and verticals. You know what I mean? There's no way around it. It's just look. The ballers have been saying for 10 years that they measure curve or measure a globe on the big. Well, but they've been saying that they account for and they allow for curvature at bigger distances. That's because they're not measuring any of this nonsense. They don't. You can't measure something you can't see, number one. So you can only measure as far as you can see. So you can see Mount Everest from the Kathmandu Valley. So you can't take an angular size of Mount Everest from the Kathmandu Valley, which is about 100 miles away. And from further again, because Mount Everest is so big. So a lot of mountains, you can see them from a big distance, especially if you're at a high elevation. You can definitely measure the angular size of that mountain from a big distance. Right. So other than being up mountains, like once they're not up a mountain, then that a mountain would, like, as far as surveying goes, that's the only other thing they use that's higher than a mountain is a plane. So they'll take strip video of land, of the surface of Earth with a plane, and that'll allow them then to put it together. They have to also measure every part of that as well. So you can't measure, as I said, you can't measure something if you can't see it. So how are they measuring things they can't see? They're not. Complete and utter nonsense. There is no curvature measured at any point in claimed planar or geodetic surveying. It's all, it's just they can mathematically add it in by adding an R value that they've never measured and can't be measured into their mathematics. It means absolutely nothing. As an example, in Ireland, we have these stations.
Just before you do,
they're like,
just before you give me your example, I just want to shout out a super chat. V. Lee, thank you very much for the super chat. Hope everyone on the panel is doing well. God bless. Thank you very much for the super chat. Go well. Go well. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. In Ireland, we have these benchmarks. Now, they have surveying benchmarks everywhere. But in Ireland, we have these benchmarks that are kind of particular, where they are, let's say, up at a high elevation. They're, let's say, nearly an almost triangular piece of stone, but they're not a triangle because they're flat top. And on that flat top has 3 channels, right? So let's say there's 3 channels cut out of it. So if you pour water in, it'll pour out 3 ways. Well, it probably won't because it will because water will flow. But the point I'm making is these 3 channels are, if you had a long enough, let's just say, steel bar, you could put it into one of those channels, and then into the same channel, another channel in a similar thing at a big distance away, at some other high elevation. If you understand what I mean. So they're all based around trigonometry. So the whole of Ireland has been surveyed in this way, and they have these benchmarks. So it's impossible. It's impossible for there to be curvature measured for this to be a situation. Now, Ireland is a very small country. I take that on board. But it doesn't matter. Like, you've got a lot of area that's being measured, and it's all being measured, and they have these in place to show you. You know what I mean? This is the whole point of them. Is that if you had them on a piece of paper, you could connect them all up via lines, and they'd make a lot of triangles with very big area within the lines. But they won't be making any curved angles or any curved triangles. So, of course, they do similar processes in other parts of the world, but I know these are unique enough to Ireland, these particular benchmarks.
Are they the same as the OS benchmarks that I put in my video?
I'm not sure. What could you describe those? Because same thing.
I'll do one better. If you can keep the conversation going, I'll dig out my example, because there's a benchmark just up the road from me. So the high ground for me is just up the church I got married in, which is 300 yards away from me. So when it was nice and quiet, I don't know how long ago. I think it was back in February, just before. It was the day I had one of my teeth removed. So I was in a lot of pain when I did it. Not that that's relevant to the story. Anyway, I strolled across at sort of 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, so that there'd be no traffic and noise while I was making this video about the Ordnance Survey benchmark that's literally chiseled into the side of the church. And it just looks like a bit like an alien spacecraft. It's a table. That's what it actually is. It's a straight horizontal line with a vertical line coming down from the centre, and then two 45 and whatever the other degree angle is coming off the sides of it. So it looks like a table. I'll dig out my video of it. Just give me a couple of minutes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I remember that.
I know those. I think we have those here as well. I think they use them in the US as well, and I think they're kind of across the board. It's just showing you the horizontal and the vertical at that exact. And it just giving you, it just has a height to it, an elevation, a vertical elevation, kind of thing. So yeah, but the benchmark I thought about, they're slightly different. They're a capstone, and it's on the top of the cap. I'd have to get a photo of it. Give me a minute if you're.
No, you keep the conversation. I'm looking. I'll look for mine, and you look for yours after. We're both looking for stuff. The air will go dead, and we'll just be left with Neil.
I will say something. If that's not telling you Earth is measured flat, I don't know what is.
Well, you can't measure it without using horizontals and verticals. Can't do that, and regardless of the distance. So the thing about how they account for curvature on the bigger scale, no, they just mathematically add it in afterwards. You can only.
And the only way you can have horizontals and verticals on a sphere is you have to go inside of it then. And ain't nobody doing that.
You can't have them at all.
I agree. But in the diagrams, they show you in the center of a circle, not even a sphere.
So that would be more like not in surveying. What they'll show you on geodetic surveying diagrams is they'll show you a sphere out, but then they show you a flat square on that sphere of a great area. That great area around on the surface of the flat square, and they'll show you a line coming from the center of that square, is meeting the center of the globe and going straight out from the surface of that sphere. But that's only nonsense, because what that actually is that square it has another square in front of it and behind it to its sides at every corner, and they have the same. You know what I mean? Because that's how it's always surveyed. There is no curvature, consistent curvature measured. There is a particular processes for measuring curvature, and which would be elevation changes, which would be differential leveling, and then for the slope grade within that, you would have the process of rise over run. So it's like these processes are used everywhere all the time since the start of surveying. There's nowhere they're not used.
Buck Sodbuster tried to throw that differential leveling at us. That's a joke.
Differential leveling
no,
again.
Differential leveling is not a joke. Differential leveling is what they do.
It is, but they're using horizontal distances in order to apply differential leveling. You need horizontal distances in the first instances. Those are the measurements. The trig fails if you don't have that. You can't use trig unless you've got a horizontal distance. So all scales, Earth is measured using horizontal distance measurements. There are no exceptions.
I meant what he showed me as a diagram for how they do this differential leveling is a joke, because he has a flat baseline, but instead his is curved.
Well, then it won't give you a horizontal distance, will it?
Exactly.
Right.
That's why I said it's
Not
ridiculous.
differential leveling. Then it's nothing to do with that. It's not surveying.
It's not called
Look, just 'cause some baller-
differential curving.
Sorry, Nick.
It's not what it's called, is it? Differential curving? No. Differential leveling based on the level that you use for the trig that you use with the horizontal distance that we measure. So we need horizontal distances, which is precisely what is applied without exception. So Earth's measured flat. I just want to play through this video just so I can take it off screen. It's only a couple of minutes. An ordnance survey benchmark. This style being called a cut mark. It's cut into buildings all over the UK. And this benchmark has an exact height above sea level, noted by Ordnance Survey. That's 6 a.m. to be exact. And we are... To be honest, you don't need the rest of the preamble from the video. That's all you need. I mean, I can go forward to the bit that was relevant just then, which is me discovering it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to measure...
Exactly as I said it would. Say again, Brian.
Sorry, I thought you were stopping the video.
I'll just play this last, 30 seconds.
Mary
Magdalene's Church. Closer to this cut mark. This is an Ordnance Survey cut mark, and it is a benchmark that they've been putting in place in buildings around the UK right up until the late 90s. So on screen is this, which is called a cut mark, and it is an Ordnance Survey benchmark, and you can probably just make it out. There's a horizontal line, a vertical line, and then 2 diagonal lines that come off it that basically look like a table. And it's referenced to sea level, and if you type in to Google Ordnance Survey cut marks, they're all over the UK. They're all referenced to sea level. Earth can and is flat for these to exist. That's how they work. Again, there's no two ways about this. That's how it's surveyed. Off sea level with a height relative to an average. That's your height above sea level marked with what's called a cut mark. That's what this is. That's how it's measured. Earth's measured flat.
Yeah, they call them, they call them benchmarks here. I don't know what they call them in the UK. But yeah, they'd be the same thing, a benchmark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't be listening to any of them callers when it comes to this topic.
No, I
They
had a
only-
picture posted the other day, and I wanted Nathan to go over
I saw
it
it. It
for a reason.
It contradicted itself.
Yeah, but we have an audience too, so it'd be nice if the audience we could see the picture because he puts that everywhere. I posted it again with his what do you call that nonsense? Differential leveling, not nonsense, but how he proposes it's done is nonsense.
There's different methods for finding out the grade and slope of the land over a distance. These days, like you can use LiDAR, I think, and stuff like that. But like if you were to practically do it, it's differential leveling, where you'll be using an auto level and a measuring rod. So it'll take 2 people, one person to hold a measuring rod, one person to a site with the auto level, and that's what they'll do. And that's how they determine, let's say from that benchmark, they can start determining elevations from the closest road to that benchmark. They'll have a height to that benchmark as well, which will be a height above, probably, I think it's above I think it'll be the road to the right of it there. I think it will be in a direct line. That'll be the height of that benchmark above that road. Pretty sure that's how it works.
Am I supposed to be
could
putting this
wrong
on
about
screen?
that.
Sorry, Brian. Am I supposed to have this on screen?
Yes, put it on screen because look what it says. It's dead right off the top. Backsite is a site taken to the graduated staff at a point of known elevation. Well, how did you get that known elevation? And it's not from that little curve you got saying mean sea level and it's curved. That's a contradiction.
Yeah, see that straight line? See that straight line?
Yeah, it says mean sea level and it's got a curve to it. What an idiot.
Yeah, but these are the diagrams that have been put out by. This is not something he made up. I've seen these type of diagrams many times.
Well, I know.
Out there by surveying. See that straight line between the order level and the measuring rod that I was just talking about? That straight line, like they'll be using that straight line and parallels to that straight line for every bit of what they're doing, regardless of the distance. So how can the line underneath it be curved? If that has to be parallel. You know what I mean? So if you're talking about surveying, let's say in a straight line, let's say you surveyed in a straight line 70 miles over the course of whatever, a week or something, all the elevations, right? Then that 70 miles all those lines have to be parallel to each other, all horizontal, all parallel to each other. That's an auto level. Right, it creates a straight horizontal line. That's the purpose of them. So how can they all be parallel to each other and then be elevations, but the line underneath it being mean sea level be curved?
It can't. It's an axiomatic. It can't. It's a defiance of the axiomatic principle being used in the measurement. So I use this, but just not with surveying. I use it with the Earth curve calculation. So when the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective, hijacking Earth curve calculator makes the same assertions as would be made in surveying, they also require the same axiomatic principle hold true. That is to say, in Earth curve maths, you require surface level be parallel with eye level. Now, that's an axiomatic principle that cannot be defied. If it is, your maths fails. Or to put it another way, Earth must be measured flat for Earth curve maths to succeed. You need parallel eye level. And what's it parallel to? The surface level you measured your height off.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the same without a dingleberry, would it? Come on.
The dingleberry's part of their faith. I mean, in a way, it is kind of... It does lead you to despair to a certain degree as a flirt. Because what's the point? If I can bring you to an axiomatic principle where in mathematics you require parallel surface level and eye level for it to function, but in your diagram you appeal to, like Dave McKeegan did, when unfuckable fugly Dave McKeegan pointed at the diagram we use from celestial navigation manuals and books. In their diagrams they've got a curve and then they're drawing an angle on the curve. And Dave McKeegan's appeal was, well, look, even in your own diagram, you've got a curve. You're like, are you kidding me? So in favour of your belief, you will defy the axiomatic principle being used in the measurement. And what's the answer? Yes. Yes, we will. You're like, well, then there is no hope for you. You cannot defy an axiomatic principle in measurement in favour of a religious belief of a ball, because a diagram shows you it that way. The measurements are what they are. You can't defy parallel, or your measurement fails. It is that simple. But like I say, what do you get in the face of that? Well, the diagram shows a curve. Look, this diagram's got a curved sea level. Yeah, well, then it won't be parallel. It won't work. Well, the diagram shows it curved, so it must work. Okay, well, then you're giving up your axiomatic principles in measurement for your religious belief. There is no helping you. What do you want from me? You want to tell me that thousands of years of knowledge have led you to the point where you defy axiomatic principles? Okay, I'm done with you. I don't care anymore. Go away.
That's the right attitude to have.
If you look at that diagram, that when you're doing differential leveling, you will have an auto level, right? And you will know the elevation of that auto level. and you will have somebody with a measuring rod, and you'll do a foresight and a backside. So, right, you'll determine which one direction is forward, right, and that the other person with the measuring rod, you will send a straight line basically via you're not sending, it's only a visual straight line to the person with the measuring rod in front of you, whatever, they'll be like maybe 100 feet away or whatever, and you'll do the same behind you, right? So what you're doing really essentially is you're looking behind where you are before that, really, and then the person walks in front of you, and then you do it again. Then you go again beyond that person, and you do it again, right? Or you can do it in a 360, right? But the point being is that they need those to be a tangent, but they can't be a tangent because a tangent to a sphere can't have can't have two straight lines, right, making a 90-degree angle with that tangent, right, and the Earth be a globe. Whereas they require all those straight lines, which are the measuring rod, right, that are meeting those horizontals, all those measuring rods meeting the site of the outer level at 90 degrees. They all, right, are 90 degrees to each other. So if you measure, so you can't have the first two you do, that can't be a tangent, because a tangent would mean you're not referencing, if you're moving from one end to the other end of a tangent, you're not referencing the Earth anymore.
It's not the ground. If it's a tangent,
it's not the ground.
Yeah, it's not the surface level anymore. And in this instance, you're rather than define parallel, you're defining the axiomatic principle of perpendicularity. You don't have perpendicular if you're on a ball. You've got a single point of tangency. Well, that doesn't give you 90 degrees. It's a single point. You need a straight line. Well, we've got a tangent. Well, then it's not the surface anymore. You're supposed to be measuring the surface.
Exactly. It's not the surface anymore.
Yeah, which is where we get to the frustrating part of our opponents telling us that, well, we're not measuring the surface. Okay, that's true. We're not measuring your ball surface. We are definitely building things on the surface of Earth. Quite successfully, you're probably living in one. Meanwhile, that would require us measuring the bleeding surface. It's just not your ball surface in your religious faith that defies axiomatic principles like perpendicularity and parallel. For measurement.
Yeah, I made a video. Sorry, one day.
Yeah, one day.
No, I was just saying that I love that point you made, Nathan. Yeah, it's not their surface. It's great.
Yeah, just to round that out.
I made a video.
Oh, sorry, Brian, just one more thing. Just to reiterate that, it's because that's what they use as their incoherent get out of jail free card when it fails for them. They tell you, the person utilising a measurement of Earth's surface, that it isn't the surface. Now, in frustration, I've seen flirfs do this, where they argue that, no, it is the surface. It's like, no, you don't need to argue for this. It's axiomatically tied to Earth measurement. So you don't have to justify it. You just need to agree with them telling you it's not their surface, because it isn't their ball surface. Instead of debating with them about it being the surface that is measured, because that's never going to change. How Earth gets surveyed is what it is. We do, at all scales, measure Earth flat with perpendicular right angles, as Brian just described, at these multiple measuring points, and parallel eye level to the surface level. Like with flying, these axiomatic principles cannot be defied, and they will not be violated by a religious belief, at which point you get what One Deck has just commended me for, which is them telling you that it's not the surface. Just remember, it's not your ball surface. But we do definitely survey Earth when we survey Earth. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, just on that point, before we go off from it, I made a video some time back called The Tangent Paradox. And the point of the video was exactly that. If you and me were out, Nathan, and you had an outer level and I had the measuring rod, according to their claim, you put the the auto level the tripod down, and you make sure it's level everything. Then you would measure. We'd have a distance, horizontal distance between that and the measuring rod, right? And then I'd be, let's say you looking at me, then I'll go around to the back of where you are, and you turn the auto level around 180 degrees, and you do the same again. Now, according to their claim, that has to be the end of the survey. We can't continue on because that is a tangent. Technically, you've just measured, technically, according to them, you have just created a tangent with your auto level. So we have to stop the survey at that point and go home. That is within their claim. Because you cannot have two right angles on a tangent, right? You can't. Geometrically, you can't have two right angles on a tangent, because then your right angle is to nothing. It's not referencing anything. But according to them, that's where the survey has to stop. But it doesn't. In reality, it continues on like that. So they can't all be tangents. Do you know what I mean? It's so ridiculous. You know?
To quote Simon Dan though, Brian, we don't only measure Earth flat.
Also, though, when we watched the basics of surveying the other day, part one, the surveyor went through the basic parts that you'll be using. I don't think it was a tangent line included in that equipment and bits and pieces that the surveyors use.
No, it didn't.
In part 4, though. It's in part 4, guys.
Yeah, I mean, what they'll take us to is the account for Earth curve injected into the calculations after we've measured Earth flat.
Nathan, that's absolutely correct. That's exactly what they do. They always skip right past the flat Earth measurement and try to go on to their religion. But that's good that we're stopping everybody right at the beginning.
Or curvature would be change in elevation, would it not, Nathan?
Well, no, because in terms of measurement, that would be rise over run. I mean, I haven't got your diagram back up now, but in terms of where you drew the perpendicular right angle to the drop from eye level on the instrument you had on the diagram, to have the curve beneath where the instrument's measuring, you'd have a measured curve of the hill. And that would be measured with rise over run, wouldn't it?
Well, it'd be differential leveling and rise over run would be measuring it. If it was there, it would be being measured all the time, but it's not measured at any time ever. Right. There is elevation changes measured, but no one is measuring a consistent curve. Those elevations are with respect to a consistent horizontal.
Perfect.
Being mean sea level.
Exactly. So to describe the elevation change, it's deviating from the horizontal. It's back to the Bevtard position, which is to say, oh, well, we've got topology, therefore Earth can't be flat. Yeah, it can. The difference in topology is measured with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. That's how we know how high or low it is with respect to sea level as an average. That's how topology is measured with respect to a flat plane.
It's game over, guys.
Yeah. I mean,
it's funny, though, isn't it? Like,
go ahead, Rondek.
Just saying, it's funny how all these ballers, they did it with celestial. They're all suddenly experts in celestial navigation, but they do it slightly different than the books say. And they're all experts in surveying, but they do it slightly different than the experts say. They use different things like tangent lines and all that. So they become experts in all these fields, but they don't do it exactly as it is being done professionally.
Yeah, but the thing is, even the professionals, there's plenty of professionals out there that will know exactly how rise over run works, how differential leveling works, how leveling your tool to a horizontal plane of reference works, how you must have an axiomatic parallel with eye level with respect to sea level and surface level. They know how all of this works, but they still believe they're on a ball.
I was just going to say that, Nathan. I could go to a surveyor. They're actually doing it down the block from me. I see them with all their tools. If I go up to one of them and say, "You think we're living on a globe?" And they'll say, "Yeah."
It's called cognitive dissonance. And it's a very difficult battle to face if you're dealing with somebody in that position. That is to say that their religious belief in being on a ball taught to them at school is in contradiction with the measurements of Earth. And you get statements like, well, we have bent sea level from Simon Dan again. Oh, well, we've got curved sea level. No, we haven't, or we don't have parallel eye level when measuring. That defies the axiomatic principle used in the measurement, Dan. But in your mind, your religious belief of Earth being a ball leads you to declare a contradiction in terms. Well, we've got curved sea level. No, we haven't. You're an idiot, but that's what you need to believe when you're stifled with cognitive dissonance, something we're not afflicted with. But for the last 10 years, a lot of us, many are still in this position now, want to convert the world. And the world isn't for converting. The world's for controlling, and it ain't being controlled by you. Or me.
That's a good point, Nathan.
Neil, you said a minute ago that if you went and asked, or if someone went and asked those surveyors, is the Earth a globe? They'd say yes, or something like that. Or if you ask them if it's a flat, they say no, they say it's a globe. How do you know that? Didn't Bev ask the surveyor? And he said, yeah, it's flat.
But you can ask them if it's flat.
I have yet to hear any surveyor outside of the bozos and the frauds that came into this arena, which amounted to 3 people. Right, and one of them I don't even believe was a surveyor because he was a Marine and he was a lot of other stuff before he was a surveyor. So I don't know how he became a surveyor. But long story short, outside of them, I've not heard any surveyor make any claim
No,
about measuring Earth as a globe.
No, I have. I asked him, this is when I was in New York, I seen him doing it. And this is when we first started talking about it. I was working. And I said, hey, do you guys still think we're on a globe as you're looking at those horizontals? They said, yeah, it's a globe. We're just doing local surveying. So in other words, at some point...
What they said is we don't only measure it flat. Sorry.
Right, at some point... Hold on, at some point, in other words, they're saying at some point, when you're measuring larger distances, it's going to be curved somehow.
Well, that's funny because at that point they're claiming they're using it. They can't not see. They're denying the tangent at that point. See, to say that they're locally surveying the Earth as with a planar baseline, right? To say that they're doing that is denial, a complete denial of the geometry of the Earth, of the geometry of the Earth they're claiming it is. If you understand what I mean, you can't at any point not make a tangent, but they're denying the tangent, a complete tangent denial, while also claiming that it is a globe. But it can't be a globe and you deny the tangent. It can't. Those two things geometrically don't work. You know.
Yeah, it's what Nathan says. It's cog dis. It's like embedded in them. They really have no idea. Now, with this topic out there as it is, I'd say that there's more surveyors now that do know Earth is measured flat. I mean, it's got to be driving them insane. Like, holy shoot, after all these years, you know, because the topic is out there.
That's why we have to be kept separated from the masses and bundled into a pool with idiots like Dan and Dave. And then the pool is a limited group of people that can all be directed towards the one side of the argument while the other side's suppressed. But that pool isn't mingling with the rest of society. So where you think, oh, well, the surveyors must be suffering cognitive dissonance, why? They're just going about their normal lives, aren't they? Why would they be suffering cognitive dissonance?
Yeah, but this topic is out there more than you think, Nathan. It really is.
I don't think so. Really? I don't think so, Neil.
I have no doubt, Nathan, that this.
Nathan, look at TikTok alone.
Yeah, but never mind TikTok and stuff, Neil. Just a second. It's out there amongst the surveyors and the pilots and the navigators. I have no doubt. Right? They can't rock the boat for their because of their career. They can't rock the boat. I have no doubt. They've been sitting around going, what don't we do here? You know what I mean? If it was that, we'd have to be doing this, this, and this. What don't we do? Planes don't do that. We don't do that. We don't survey that way. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Those conversations have happened. Where, you know what I mean? There's going to be people with cognitive dissonance, but you have no doubt those conversations are taking place. So we've had surveyors as part of on our side here in this arena, but most of them have left. They haven't stayed around. Not that they've left it flat out, but they've just left the arena because of all the BS that goes on.
Yeah, take Brian Mullen. What was it, 7 or 8 years ago? Comes out, starts describing how Earth's measured flat and breaking down how it can't be measured ball-shaped. You get people like George Netanyahu contacting his employer, trying to take his job from him for detailing how Earth gets measured, how it isn't measured spherically. And that means that you're going to take his job off him? Why? Oh, right, because he's not in congruence with your belief of a ball that defies the axiomatic principle of Earth measurement, so therefore have his job off him.
I was thinking the same thing as you were saying it to Brian Mullen guy, and that was early in this. It was, right? That's got to be like 2017, 2018.
Oh, well.
When this transpired.
Oh, well. George Netchuk's house burnt down and then he died. So he got what he deserved.
Well, I remember Mark Sarger still has the video up of the female Dutch pilot who was grounded and had her commercial license taken from her because she said the Earth was flat back in 2017.
Yeah, she had to take a psych evaluation when she landed.
Yeah, and there was another, her and another lady used to speak on one of the Discord, or they were friends. And there was another lady who was a retired commercial pilot, was a flat earther, used to be on 24/7 some years ago. And the two of them used to speak. So it's like like that guy, remember the commercial pilot you met, the retired man you met at that meet and greet you went to, Nathan? Remember the presentation you were doing?
Huh?
You remember you went to that, you remember that thing you did where you went and you travelled and you did the presentation, and at that, within the crowd, was a retired pilot, commercial pilot.
Oh yes, I do remember now. Yes. That's right.
Yeah, he spoke to you about the pitch data and other things like that. Yeah, there you go. See, when they're retired, they can say whatever, but when they're working, they can't.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah, that was at the Flat Earth Social. So Brian's talking
just
about...
back to the surveying a little bit. Sorry,
one more time, one deck.
I'm just sorry. I was saying just back to that, the surveying. They're all, they admit that we're just measuring it locally flat. But even Brian will know more on this. And you mentioned it the other day, Nathan, and we all know GPS works on a grid system. But so even when you go and look into how Earth is measured or surveyed on large scales, it'll give you GPS and lasers, and there's a couple more I can't remember off the top of my head. But when you drill into them applications or equipment, none of them are measuring curvature. Even they tell you that they measure angles, they measure in points and distances between the points on the surface of Earth. So when they say, well, locally it's flat, but when we do it on larger scales, it's curvature. No, it's not, because you just look at the equipment again and what the equipment they're using is designed for, and it's not designed for measuring curvature. So that's incorrect, and you can just drill into that and find that out yourself dead easy.
Well, that kind of speaks to what Brian said earlier, actually, which is something that I was corrected on, but Brian was kind enough to do it subtly, which is to say I was incorrect when I said there's a difference between... I've been Jedi mind tricked by my opponent, basically. Again, I'll thank Brian for not labouring this point, but I'll labour it off my own back, which is to say that my assumption that there are differences between these two methodologies, no, there isn't. They're both using the exact same tools, they're both using the exact same methodology. It's only so that you can justify measuring it flat at a local level, like Simon Dan did. So you can say, oh, well, we don't only measure it flat, we've got these different types of surveying. And yeah, up to 100 miles, we can measure it flat. Well, why? Why can you measure it flat? Why would you ever measure it flat? Unless it's flat. Well, the answer is, because it's flat, You measure it flat at all scales, but that's a problem. So it's best to describe two different types and then lie about one of them whilst detailing the other measuring it flat. But in reality, they're both exactly the same thing. They're both using the same processes. They're both using trig. They're both using horizontal distance measurement. They're both leveling their tools to a horizontal plane. They're both using parallel eye level with surface level. They're both referencing sea level. They're both the same. Earth's measured flat regardless of how you title the description of the surveying itself. Right, Brian?
Yeah, even my mother's partner, Nathan, he detailed for me the size of the areas that he would be measuring or surveying, and that he would be using trigonometry, like between three mountains and and the whole mountain range and all that, and what he had to do. And he made maps as well as part of his job, so he had to make maps of whole areas, and he used horizontals and verticals and trigonometry, because when he retired was in 1993, and that was the start of GPS and other things coming in. So none of that stuff was there before that. Before that, everything he did was all practical. He said there was a couple of things that had turned up that were using like radar and stuff like that. But for him and for the majority of his work, everything he did was practical. So he used a theodolite, and he used trigonometry. He would have used auto levels, things like that, but like he wouldn't have been using GPS and stuff. And he said everything he did was trigonometry, like whole mountain ranges and all that. And it's he knew I was a flat earther. He should say he knows. But I never had that argument with him. I just spoke with him about surveying. And every single thing I said, he said, I don't really need to teach you well. He said, you totally understand it. He said to me twice, he said, you should have been a surveyor, He said, you just have an actual understanding of this. But what I was doing there, I didn't want to have an argument with him. But everything I said to him was correct. Absolutely everything I said to him. And when he was speaking to me, I understood everything he was saying. I said, this is because of that. That's because of this. And he go, yes. Right? And all I was doing was laying out how the earth is measured. And it's all in reference to the same horizontal plane.
Yep.
Right? He was agreeing with me without me having an argument with him, if you understand.
I had the exact same experience with my sister. So it was weird because it was during an argument with my brother-in-law about Earth not being flat from his perspective. And what I'm doing is detailing how celestial navigation functions. And at the corner of my eye, I can see my sister, who's trained in navigation, has owned several boats, nodding. Just nodding along casually. And when I look over, I'm like, well, why are you nodding along? She's like, well, don't you forget I had several boats? Now, I've mentioned this at the time, but her previous husband died, and I've blocked a huge chunk of that section of my life out as a result of trauma. But as soon as she said it, I'm like, yeah, of course. I've seen you holding a freaking sextant. Yeah? When we're out at sea. I know you know how to do this, and you're not disagreeing with me because that's how it's done. Not, it might be done that way, but we could add in curvature. It's no, that is how it's done if you don't want to die at sea.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. When you're not having an argument with someone, if you're just speaking to them about what they do, and don't have an argument with the person, don't have the earth is flat, and then say, no, it's a globe, because they're instantly, you don't know, but more likely people are they're likely to do that. But as I said, same again, like with you and your sister, me and my mother's partner, like just having a general conversation about it, there was nothing he could disagree with. Totally, right. Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
But there's
what?
Well, I was just going to say that this was we're tailing into the subject matter that I wanted to have on Friday, but we never really got to it. I tried to instigate it, but now we're seeming to etch our way into it on this show, which is great, with 10 minutes left. But the divide and rule aspect. So earlier I was detailing how we're stuck in a pond with Simon Dan and Dave McKeegan, right? And therefore our subject, that's me and Dan together, our subject matter is shielded from the general populace. And anybody who's on the fringes looking in gets drawn in and taken to Dan or Dave or whoever, right, to reaffirm their biases. But in the light of what I thought would be something like Flat Earth highlighting this to the masses, it hasn't been. It's been a political murder that's ended up bringing out the best in people like Chase Hughes. Now, I mentioned him again on Friday because I thought this is where the conversation would hopefully lead, and it didn't. But Chase Hughes is one of the behavioural panel, and he is absolutely on fire at the moment. Go and subscribe to Chase Hughes, because what he's detailing off the back of Charlie Kirk's murder is how we are manipulated, and it's being broken down in the most concise way possible. Now, it's all well and good me describing me and Dan being in the same pond together. It's much more overt when it's something that isn't connected to your own subject matter. So in this case, a political murder. Very tragic. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. But Chase Hughes is pointing out that you are being fueled with rage and hatred towards a seeming opponent who, if sat across from you on a dinner table, you might find that 90% of what you actually deal with in day-to-day life is exactly the same as theirs. Their business is the same as your business. Your strifes and woes are the same as theirs. You've got more in common than you have not. Therefore, why would you be baying for blood? Well, because you watch Twitter and YouTube and Hulu and Netflix, and these things position you in a society where you have an opponent, someone to brace against. Now, for us, it is Craig, Simon, Dan, Fugly Dave, whoever. But why? Well, so that we can maintain the argument. I've been saying this for the last 6 months. What's the point of us being here? So that there can be a perception of an argument. Without the perception of an argument, without the perception of a flat earth debate, there's just the measurements and no one arguing about it. Well, you need people to be arguing about it, so there's a perception of them versus us and a debate to be had. Neither of which in reality are actually true. It's a manufactured perception. Left versus right, flat versus round, etc., etc. And it's all an illusion designed to suppress you, to keep you without any power. Because if you're busy fighting with Dan or Dave or Craig, then you're not actually out there opposing the people who put these systems in place in the first place. And that's the point. Dan hasn't come up with the idea of us being on a globe, has he? So why am I fighting with Dan? Oh, well, I'm buying into the paradigm of left versus right, flat versus curve, keeping us busy till we die, and the whole process can start again without anything have changed. Exactly the same situation. We're still measuring Earth flat, and there's still numpties who believe it's a ball. So better to have the numpties away from the power structures argue amongst themselves in some pond over here. Well, the minute you recognise that's what's happening, you're less likely to be manipulated. Now, as I say, although it's not flat Earth related, the principle directly translates across from the left versus right rage and fury that leads people to literally kill people who disagree with them. Now, martyrdom, in the case of Charlie Kirk, will reinforce his ideas. People will go out and they'll search for what he stood for as a result of what's happened and why he stood for it. He'll become a martyr. Now, I'm not suggesting that we go out murdering our opponents. That's an absolute disgraceful situation. But that's the net result. But it keeps the actual directed fury away from those who are actually worthy of receiving it, and has it internally battled amongst the people at ground level. Not the people who've instigated these systems, not at all. But yet you'll watch the news and you'll hear people talking about how they should be, how those people shouldn't be existing. Trying to carefully phrase it so I don't use my monetization. I'm really poor. Please smash the super chat.
Well, it's funny you should bring up Charlie Kirk, because yesterday at Times Square Church, there was a certain pastor delivering a message. And he said, I'm going to say a few things and tell me if you agree or you don't agree. And he mentioned a few things and he had the whole place. Yeah, praise the Lord, hallelujah. And he said, well, that's not me. That's exactly what Charlie Kirk was saying. Funny how you should phrase that. But yeah, if you just stick them in a normal situation, they're not going to be wailing and gnashing their teeth at you.
Well, the use of Charlie Kirk is a bit of an awkward kind of an example, to be honest with you, because he said some things that were very controversial to you. And
yeah, because you're a sympathizer for the freaking other side. Yeah, we know.
No, it's not that other side. There you go, straight away onto my side. Right?
I
Yeah,
haven't
right.
been saying anything.
I'm trying to
but
Neil.
I'm trying to point out a
Hello,
balanced situation.
hello, inaudible conversation. Neil, chill. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, he said things that were, he had views and viewpoints and things that I would totally disagree with. And he said some stuff that I would totally disagree. I didn't follow the guy at all. But I'm sure he said some stuff a lot of people would agree with. But rather than my point is, rather than talking about him because he has had his own flaws, the point being more that they have this illusion of a left versus right, where in reality, if you're talking about that kind of situation, it should only be right versus wrong for every situation, not what your leftist ideas are or your right-wing ideas are. It should only be right versus wrong. So they have this illusion, and America have fallen for it more than I think everyone's fallen for it. We have it here, but I think to the extreme, America has fallen for it to the extreme more than other places. And they have these two sides that really hate each other. And they're both the same, grew up in the same country, in the same place. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's great, it's ridiculous. But they didn't give themselves those ideas. Those ideas were handed to them. You know, just like Simon Dan didn't come up with the idea of Europe being a globe. That idea was handed to him. You know, so it's like they do try and like that's why when it comes to us, Nathan, they have to keep us talking about ice walls and domes, because then we're not talking about the actual measurements of Earth, because from that and about things to do with actual science and physics, you know, and natural law. So that information is not getting out there as a whole to the public. So when people think of flat earthers, they think of, well, they have a point in some ways, but I know about this ice wall and dome. Do you know what I mean? Like two things there was no evidence shown for this ice wall and this dome, ever. Right. But then straight away flat earthers, out of the gate, started claiming there was an ice wall and a dome.
Yeah, I completely agree. When I look at the popular flat earthers, I'm like, okay, well, let's have a quick listen. I won't name and shame anybody in particular, but I listen to them. I'm like, it's interesting that these people continue to rise in popularity in this little corner of the internet we call flat earth, when their rhetoric is identical to the 10-year-old rhetoric that we walked away from 8 years ago. That is to say, they're talking about, as you say, ice walls and domes, but not only that, they're talking about 9/11, they're talking about magic and spells and spelling.
Free energy.
Dark energy. Well, is that what you said?
Yeah, free energy.
Yeah, free energy. All this kind of crap. Stuff that we were shuffled towards initially. And back when we were, the videos that we produced were popular. They would allow the general masses to see those. Now, obviously, since then, there's been heavy censorship foisted upon YouTube, seemingly from the American government. But regardless, the people who still maintain a certain degree of popularity in the subject of flat Earth are talking about nonsense. They're spewing garbage that makes flat earthers look like idiots. Well, they will, in the pond at least, maintain a certain degree of popularity because they become easily ridiculed as a result of their rhetoric. Us, me, in specific terms, it's a real struggle. As a YouTuber, it's incredibly difficult. So for me, I've had a couple of weeks off through illness, and my ad revenue's halved. That means I'll now struggle to pay my mortgage. So what, for having a few days off, I watch fellow videographers in the same pond casually take 2 weeks off without having to give it a care or mention, and then make another video, and it'll get hundreds of thousands of views. Why? Well, because they're promoting garbage if they're on the flat earth side, or promoting standard fare rhetoric that defies flat earth measurements if they're on the ball side. So they don't need to make any justification. Me, if I don't do a live stream every single day and produce extra ancillary shorts videos every single day, I can't pay my mortgage. But yet, 10 years ago, monetization was far easier. Why? Well, because I was talking about spells and spelling. And 9/11.
Well, from a YouTube position, let's say YouTube is like Amazon. You work, well, you making YouTube videos and me making YouTube videos, and let's say Simon Dan making YouTube videos and Dave McKeegan making YouTube videos. It's like we're all working on the same factory floor doing the same job, but Simon Dan and Dave McKeegan are getting paid much better wages. You
Yeah,
know what I
basically.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's the most unfair work situation in history, I think. What?
No, you're absolutely correct. And why? Well, because there's a power structure that's in place that doesn't need disbanding. It wants to be retained and bolstered. So therefore, well, you can't have people telling the world that the Earth's flat. You need to put a little tag underneath them and suppress them. You're like, okay, why? You don't need to suppress Bigfoot people, do you? Oh no, the Bigfoot people are the flat Earth shills that we have to encounter, aren't we? They're the same idiots that make us all look like numpties. They'll get reasonable viewing numbers, unless they don't need the viewing numbers, unless they need to be seen to be not getting the numbers, like straight after Antarctica.
Well, I would say within the Bigfoot community on YouTube and on social media in general, but let's just say YouTube, I would say there's certain Bigfooters that are more favoured by YouTube than others, if you know what I mean. Now,
that
I'm
right?
not saying any of them have or don't have validity. I'm just saying there might be some who are towing the party line, or, you know what I mean, maybe agents, whatever, you know, whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening as well. But they're not held back in the same way we are. You know what I mean? They're not held back in that way. They might have 70,000 subscribers and be a small Bigfoot YouTuber and be complaining they only have 70,000 after 3 years. for you put as much work as you can. You know what I mean? And you're just finding it hard to get to 27 after 10 years or 11 years. Do you know what I mean? They just, but so I'm sure there's favoured in that arena too, right? Up to a point, because they're going to create two sides in that arena too, aren't they? You're going to have people who are saying this person's a shill there as well,
Yep.
But you know, but it's just they're not held back like we are.
Absolutely. Right, on that note, I'm going to round out and say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
The point is, like, see, you're trying to have an argument. You're trying to have an argument with me now about what he says.
I heard you say it like 5 or 6 times, and I
Point
kept my
being-
mouth shut. I kept my mouth shut every time you brought it up.
The point being that when someone is being seen as a martyr, people only view them in one way. So it's imbalanced.
Brian, there's not any martyr that's been martyred that hasn't done something wrong. What are you talking about here? Nobody's perfect. Everybody has character flaws, even you.
Outrageous. I'm not going to hear a word of it. Brian has no character flaws.
Yeah.
To hear that woman on the other night, it freaking broke my heart. And you know what? They never learned from the crucifixion of Christ what they've done. They still think they could just martyr people and nothing's going to happen. Well, guess what?
Unfortunately, they use people's emotions to feel even that.
It's working well on me.
Even people's real emotions are manipulated.
Listen,
I mean,
I
we
don't
can
agree with- I don't
understand the
agree
earth
with
is
every single-
the earth is flat in the press to suppress just hearing our voices. But when it comes to government and America and patriotism, we can't understand that unfortunately the people are at the whims of the devices of the people that own the media.
Yep. That's funny.
Even our
because,
pain.
yeah, because in chat somebody said, I wanted Charlie Kirk to debate a flat earther just so he could lose at least once. Bad, but, you know, he wouldn't have won that debate because there is no debate.
Yeah, but
No.
you're right. There is no martyr. You know, black people have only been watching their leaders get killed. I don't know, all the time. Nothing new for us.
Oh, yeah. How many of your leaders have you watched being killed there, Eli?
Yeah, Eli.
You know, I was not born yet.
Was Abraham Lincoln black? About JFK?
So hold on a second. You don't think when MLK, you don't think anything was started from that and things changed and things happened after he was martyred?
Absolutely not. You know how I know? Because after the I Have a Dream speech, about a year or so later, Martin Luther King does another speech about how, for some reason, his followers think the work is done, but actually, all they've done is be rerouted and the message be rerouted. And he was disappointed. But nobody talks about that. You didn't hear that, did you? See,
Yeah, I heard it from you
that's
before.
what I'm talking about, suppressing truth.
I'm talking about after he was dead. You can't, I mean, maybe it didn't happen immediately, but there's been drastic changes since the 60s to now.
Except for the fact, things change all the time. My problem is his sentiment that he shared, I can sympathize with. That's a problem. Why am I sympathizing with the things he's saying from yesterday?
Who? Are you talking about Martin Luther King or Charlie Kirk?
Yeah. Martin Luther King.
MLK.
Okay. Why can you sympathize with him? Because
literally, Martin Luther King is basically describing a baller.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Malcolm X did that too.
Yeah, you can sympathize with him because he spoke a lot of sense. That's why. It's easy to sympathize with him. It's easy to align with his views, right?
Yeah, but Eli's saying why he's still sympathizing today.
Oh,
if he had an effect.
What you're saying
No.
why is he still so relatable?
Should have been changed.
Because things don't change.
You missed the part.
Things don't change. The colour of the skin of the people being persecuted may change, but the situation doesn't. The persecution remains the same. It's just who's being persecuted.
Yeah, but Eli,
that's true. Hold on. That's true, but he missed the point. Unfortunately. The point is, Neil was like, didn't that elicit some kind of change? And I said, actually, after his I Have a Dream speech, he came back and he spoke about the people. Like nothing was being done. Nothing was changing. And he's like, there was this big hoopla and everybody got together and did this march and all that. And then the reins of control just took they just took the reins of control right back over people went back to sleep, didn't do anything. They didn't really get what the problem was. Like how I'm always saying, we don't get that the logical fallacies of the problem, like it's the same stuff.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying after he was martyred, not a week after the speech he made, or was he killed after that speech?
After he was martyred, the media did a good job at showing me the things that he said, and then I had to grow up and see the other things that I didn't know he said also.
Okay.
So the media did a great job in manipulating the information, like I told you.
All right. So Jesus was martyred too. And you could still say that, well, what difference do you make? It's still the same. There has been a difference in everybody that does turn, or everybody that does hear and move in the path that they're telling you to move into. So you're not going to change the world in a day.
Yeah, but
we can't really, because isn't it God's at God's will? He's the one that softens the heart. Whatever we think we're doing, it's not really in our hands anyway.
I was going to say that the sacrifice Jesus made is an acknowledgement of how evil we will always be. So to say, well, he's doing it for change. No, he's doing it to save us from our own sins that we're always going to commit.
I didn't say he was doing it for change. I'm saying, did it change the hearts of the world? No, but it changed the hearts of a lot of people. Okay?
Yeah, but
hold on, before you go, Brian, what you're referring to...
Go ahead, Neil.
Hold on. What you're referring to, Eli, is the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, and he moves it whichever way he pleases. So the ruler's hearts are in God's control, in other words.
Eli, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Correct me if I'm taking you up wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong about what I'm going to say. I'm only going by an outsider view. But did things for black people in America actually get worse after the time of MLK? Like, they changed, but not for the better. There's less whole families, and there was
Yes.
more drugs, more everything. So nothing actually got better, did it?
No, it's worse. It's much
Yeah.
worse. It's exponentially worse. And the worst part about it is not only do most black people not know because of this, again, suppression of the actual truth, but most people don't know in general. Just like they don't know that the earth measures flat. They heard everything about flat earth other than that phrase.
Exactly.
Neil was moaning about this earlier, and typically you're like, oh, that's just life, isn't it? But it does frustrate me in the same way it frustrates Neil when our own side take aversion to using this terminology. Like, Earth is measured flat, there are no exceptions. What, you don't like that argument? What do you mean it's not an argument? It's a statement of fact, but you don't like it. What's not to like? Somebody explain it to me. Why is it the case that people dislike an argument about Earth being measured flat? How can you
Because it ends the argument, Nathan. It ends the conversation, and people still want to yada, 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 yada. Or like Huey says, they're on their own agenda.
Yep.
Nathan, it takes away the drama and the interplay and all the rest of it. Like, that's why QE is not on politics 24/7 anymore, because
drama.
He was doing what he thinks all people should do if they're a flat earther, which is right, which is end the argument. And I'm sure Eli does the similar thing. But the problem is that they don't want to do that. The Discord servers generally don't want that. They want it to continue and the server to continue, because if you just shut it down, the server will just shut down. So it's a server issue, isn't it? What's the point in having that server? You know what I mean?
But that's what troubles me, because that's not what will happen. It ain't going to get shut down when everybody starts discussing how Earth is measured flat. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. More people will be pointed to it. Won't be sitting there entertaining stupid arguments about freaking neutrinos.
Yeah, but the point is, Neil, is that the people who are going onto Discord want to have the discourse. And if this is the topic they picked, QE's direction is going to just shut it down as fast as possible. Because QE's just coming from a position of fact, whereas they want to actually spend time having a conversation. Funny that.
Yeah, but this doesn't do what people thinks it does. It's just that we're not. See, that's problem number 2. We're not business minded, so we don't understand how to do something from the ground up. Most of us, some like Nathan literally did that. QE does that. Brian does that. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, these arguments, they're so good that when I don't get to talk to my friends often because we're all off doing our own things, right? But I got to hang out with my friend, and she
I was waiting.
and you know, they basically, this is the same friend that was telling me, even though it sounds like I know what I'm talking about and it makes all the sense in the world, she's never going to look it up herself. So when I saw her this weekend, I talked to her about it again, because she was like, the Ethiopian church had Jesus' birthday on some day, and then the Catholic Church amended it. How the heck can you amend something like that? And I said, that's interesting. Probably had something to do with Copernicus and the Roman Catholic Church 500 years ago, when they started telling people that we live in a heliocentric place where there are planets and we revolve around the sun. But you know what? Truth doesn't really change anything. What difference does it make knowing that? So I got her with that. It's like, huh? Oh, all right. So then basically, I showed her again uh, that the Earth is measured flat. You know, pulling up citation after citation, just showing her just random stuff, and she's like, "No, like when you put it this way, so simply, it's actually very interesting. I don't understand how, like, you're not talking to like a million people." I'm like, because they kind of got it structured in a way that that's kind of hard. So a lot of us don't want to take that route, especially me. I like talking about it. I like being a part of this and all. But would I start a YouTube channel? I thought I would, but probably not. You know.
So she said it
But
was
people
easy.
love this. Because she was not interested in any of the stuff she'd heard before, but she loves FED.
Well, because we're so great and we lay it on the line, baby, just the way it is.
Did she say why she does, Eli? Or did I
Has
miss
to
that
be
part?
because of me.
Because she is like, it can't be that simple. And I'm like, yo, every time you ask anybody, especially the higher up you go in academia, how could you have a belief that you live on a globe when it measures flat, obviously, and they actually don't answer at all? And
That's a pretty good way to put it.
she's seen certain things, like she's seen the Black Swan. But
I've got to stop you.
I,
Just while we're on this sentiment, Eli, just that statement doesn't make any sense to me. When people say it can't be that simple, like, why are you objecting to the simplicity of these facts when it comes to measurements? Number one, that they're not debatable. It just is what it is. But when people, I can't wrap my head around that. That makes no sense. If something is simple, why would you brace against its simplicity? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Because they made it so complicated, Nathan. They put us in a heliocentric world system where we're revolving around the sun. There's other planets, and there's gravity and all these other things. So it can't be as simple as the Earth is measured flat, and all of that stuff is out the window. It's not that simple.
Well, Nathan, you do understand, I'll challenge you here. You take something as complicated as elevation angle measurements, where there's at least some sort of a step system where you got somebody taking an angular measurement. There's a device. You understand that you're leveling the tool to measure something in the vertical field, frame of reference, whatever you call it. And the truth is, water's flat.
So touche. So you've turned the tables on me and saying, why are you making it so complicated about the measurement with respect to a horizontal plane for an elevation angle in the vertical when you've just got flat water? Touche.
Yeah, he's right. It's as simple
No,
as
he's right.
that.
He's right. I'm making it complicated. I've answered my own. He's forced me to answer my own question. Well done.
I see his point, though. It is as simple as water's measured flat, or water is flat, and people don't accept that.
You should say sea level. Do you mean Earth's flat? Yeah, sea level. Oh, that's not level. Yeah, it is. It's
we've been saying that for years.
I've shared that sentiment for a while, saying, it really is as simple as that. I don't know why we went this far. Yeah, I've said that a couple of times, but it's crazy because to the sea level thing, someone said, so on the flat Earth, what is the sea level the same everywhere? What is it? And I replied, because no one else knew how to reply. And I said, yes, it's zero. It's a baseline. So then they started saying, okay, so then what about this canal? And I'm like, so are you trying to tell me that this canal debunks sea level being a zero baseline? And they're like, well, no, I think we're arguing from the same corner. So let me ask you, so you think you can have zero elevation on a flat Earth? And then I got them a nifty little citation. Let me see if I can find it. I'm gonna go on mute though.
That's funny when you said that. Me and sea level is level everywhere. Do, 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 do.
Friend of mine was like that on sea level. He's a baller. Got into a bit of a thing with him a while ago, and we was talking about sea level. And he's like, I see the confusion on his face when he was going through it. And he was like, well, it's not level in all the places. There's different levels. I said, well, yeah, but it's level. That's the point I'm making. It's level, not curved. he was scratching his head, saying, well, it's two different levels, as if that makes it curved.
Sure, that makes it a ball. You
So
put all
so
those
look at
different
this.
levels together.
So
So what?
okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, good. Okay. So so the question was, is sea level the same level across the entire flat earth? If so, what is that level? So I said 0. It's a baseline. He says, then why the need for the Panama Canal? More conspiracies? And I said, are you saying that Panama Canal debunks 0 being the baseline for mean sea level? And he said, doesn't it? I said, no. But anyway, so while everyone's arguing against sea level being flat, I said, I have a question. What's Nat Geo talking about here? Are they saying that sea level is the same throughout the world? And then here it reads, education.nationalgeographic.org. Sea level is the base level for measuring elevation and depth on Earth. Because the ocean is one continuous body of water, its surface tends to seek the same level throughout the world. What's Nat Geo saying?
The Earth is flat and it's measured like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
The funny thing is, you could be incorrectly accused of begging the question down. Because I've had that before, where I was accused of, if I remember correctly, pre-assuming that level was horizontal. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
funny.
Yeah, it's like they tried to say, I was begging the question. It's like, no, that's what it is.
Well, no, I mean, like, that's ridiculous to say that that's begging the question. No, like, that's what it is. And they're like, well, how come it's a different height? I'm like, oh, we're talking about waves again. We're just talking about the big wave or whatever. The bottom line is, I don't care how high or low anything. Mean sea level is a line.
Exactly.
That's it.
It's not mean sea curve. It's mean sea level.
If you're on one coast and it's higher than at another coast, well, guess what? You got some wavy water, but the surface still is horizontal, aka flat. We're not talking about smooth. We never were, unless you're talking about water at rest. It's still orientated horizontally. It's just also smooth. So it's flat and it's flat.
Quote
When there
Simon
are
Dan.
waves, it's just flat. Sorry.
Quote Simon Dan. Sea level is curved.
I can actually remember having this conversation with myself before I got into flat Earth, just many years ago, questioning why is sea level called sea level? And I just used to, I can't, it was like, why did they call it sea level? And I think I said to myself, well, they must have just thought it was level at one point and they've just not changed the name. That's how I reason with it.
We should start doing that, keeping it simple. What do you mean Earth's flat? Yeah, sea level. Well, that doesn't mean it's level. Yeah, it does. Everything's reference to it. That's how we measure Earth. That's the reference.
That was a good quote, Eli, from Nat Geo. Have you got it to post?
You might have to do some cropping.
The reason that people instantly say it can't be that simple is, as Neil said earlier, but it's actually, this is going to be kind of funny, slightly more complicated than that. It's not that everyone's taught that all of these things to do with measurement and everything else and to do with the earth on the bigger scale is all more complicated than it truly is. It's that they've made it so complicated and so convoluted that even our opposition most of the time don't understand their own paradigm. So even the people who defend it day in, day out on Discord servers and everywhere else, even they don't properly understand it most of the time. Because it is so convoluted and complicated. And they continue to make it worse and worse and worse because they keep on adding to their story. It all comes down to one thing. Is the earth curved or is the earth not curved? Is it flat? You know, what is the correct description of the earth, the surface of the earth? And if you were to use the measurements of the earth, you were to use the axioms, and you were to refer to sea level, things like that, and what level is, it comes down to that. And I have to say, Bev was saying years ago, level is horizontal. That's it. It comes down to that. Is level horizontal? Yes. And that's the end of the actual argument, if you want to bring it down to complete simplicity.
Yeah. Now, no divergence. Sorry, I just screenshotted it. But yeah, you know why it's not. You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. I don't know why, but I'll tell you what it is. When people say, well, it can't be that easy. Well, what difference would it make in my life? Is the same when people who want to be more wealthy or in a better financial standard ask rich people how to do it when they already know how to do it. Let's keep it real. Stop spending more money than you're making, dummy. That's the answer. Duh. When you really boil it all down, we're talking about boiling things down to its most simplistic form. If you know how much you generate, stop spending the same or most or more than what you're generating. It's that simple. That's what a rich person is going to tell you. He's just going to go the refraction baller route or the refraction flat earther route and tell you all this extra stuff. When the truth is, you need to have discipline. Yeah. So what is flat earth going to do? It's going to show you all of the errors that you made. That is not really that much of the government's fault. It's your lack of paying attention or whatever it was.
I remember a comedian here in the UK called Jasper Carrott summarising fat people in a very similar way. So he said that this hole here, pointing at his mouth, is bigger than this hole here, pointing at his ass.
Yeah, here's the problem. I just diagnosed it. I just turned on something and they're talking about the big fight the other night. And you got Stephen A. Smith saying Terrence Crawford is the best fighter on the planet.
What has that got to do with it? How does that connect into?
Yeah, no, I'm just. This is the problem with the world. Everybody thinks we're on a planet. Everybody still thinks we're in, floating around in space.
You always have to spoil it. I've just found that there's something on Nat Geo. Sea level is the base level for measuring elevation and depth on Earth. These hotel bungalows in Bora Bora, French Polynesia, have slits to take them inches above sea level. Because the ocean is one continuous body of water, its surface tends to seek the same level throughout the world. However, winds, ocean currents, river discharges, and variations in gravity and temperature prevent sea level from being truly level. They have to throw gravity in there, don't they?
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Gravity, the planet, these are things. That's how it ties in, Brian. The people are duped that we are living on a planet. And if you're living on a planet, that planet is spherical.
One day, right? That what they've just done there is say that mean sea level is not level. Mean sea level is the average of the tides for your place, your country, your region. That's all it is. And I've noticed people getting this wrong. I mean, how we could get this wrong, I don't understand. The tides are very different in Alaska than they are in the Maldives. So that means there's a different height to the mean sea level in Alaska than there is in the Maldives. No, the sea level is the same zero. It's exactly horizontal. That's why it's called mean sea level, right? The tides might be different, but the base level is exactly the same. That's where you're getting your mean sea level from, via the tides. The height markers of the tides, the mean of those gives you that level.
Yep.
Everywhere.
That's what I meant when I said big waves.
I know what you
That's
meant.
what I was basically saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, how
No,
are those tides
that's what I
happening?
meant when I was saying big waves. That's what I was talking about. Oh, so you're still talking about big waves on a horizontal plane, though. Who cares if it's higher over here, lower over here? You know, that's, yeah.
Because higher over here, lower over here is with respect to the plane of reference that you have to measure to describe it as being higher or lower. You can't have higher or lower on a globe. You only have in or out.
Yeah, but Nathan, how are those tides happening?
I
It's
don't
from
care.
the moon.
Don't care. Why are you asking me about
Because
tides?
I knew what you
That's the response, right? Why are you asking me about tides? Well, how do they work? I don't know. Does it matter? We measure Earth flat with sea level, and you're asking me how tides work. How is that even a response?
Because tides are caused by gravity. It's the moon, right? It has something to do with the moon, right? Oh,
No.
wait, you said Earth is measured flat. Oh, yeah, really?
Well, no. I mean, in terms of the moon, this is a disconnect between old Newtonian rhetoric of gravity and the reality of bent space-time in a pseudo-dimension, gravity. People who still believe in the old and busted Newtonian force of gravity assume there's a force of a mass called the moon pulling on the tides. No, gravity's not a force, so it definitely isn't pulling on any tides.
No, Neil has just introduced the red herring, and I hate to say this, but you took it, Nathan. Right? After telling them you don't care, even though what you said is 100% correct, right? What they do is dangle that carrot, and that's what they like to do. And I fall for it too, because sometimes I know I'm chasing the red herring. I'm fully aware, and I know you did there, because you said what you said before that. But like, it's best not to chase it, but you will do it, and sometimes I'll do it just to correct them.
Yeah, but tell me that didn't bother. But tell me that didn't bother you when you just try to remember when you first entered the arena and they're telling you that the moon is the cause of tides. You'd be like, how in the world is the moon affecting water on Earth?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
There is some correlation, but that
what
doesn't
about
say
the
cause
drink
of.
in my cup, you know? You would think the drink in my cup or like, you know, the hairs on my nose would be affected or something.
Your alcoholism is your own problem.
Brian, it's not wrong to chase certain things because you educate an audience. Now, there may have been somebody while the live show's over, but maybe when somebody hears it on the recording, they'll get an understanding and say, oh, I see.
So Nathan is 100% correct. What Nathan said was correct. But gravity was used as the red herring away from what mean sea level actually is. So the audience is like left thinking, yeah, I think I understand what he meant about mean sea level now. But I'm not 100% sure. They do it to create a gray area in the audience's mind. So it's not white or black, it's gray. And that's what they want. So the better, like, I understood totally what Nathan was doing and why he was saying it. And he understood what he was doing. But it's still a red herring. You introduced it. What?
It was the same as like the other day when Nathan read out, I think it was the theodolite or the level station. The definition has changed slightly. I can't remember the wording of it now, but it introduced a curved surface to level the tool or something stupid like that. Was it, Nathan?
I can't remember. It was an AI overview that I went and got, and then when I typed in the exact same terms to get to the same AI overview, it introduced the ambiguity of there being sphericity, or saying, yes, we measure Earth flat, but that's because it's a big sphere. Something like that.
Yeah. What does AI do? What is the purpose of AI? Purpose of AI is to make things easier for people, to help you to write that thesis, or to help you to create that app or whatever, that piece of music. Right? Hey, it's brilliant. It speeds everybody up. I can do all this stuff, make extra money with it. Blah, 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 blah. But while you're adhering to that, while it's making things easier for you, when you're adhering to making things easier for you, you're also giving away the fact that, or you're also going along with the fact that it's changing history and it's changing facts around. That's what when I would have asked a couple of years ago, even just 2 years ago, because even just 2 years ago, if I asked Google, is gravity a force in general relativity, or is gravity a force? Something like that, or to do with Albert Einstein or something, it would go, no, gravity's not, and blah, 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 Albert Einstein, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't get that at all. Now I get a complete heap of rubbish about how Einstein was actually claiming a force. No, a load of rubbish, nothing to do with general relativity.
Wow.
The point being, now, that could be tailored for that individual person. I can't guarantee that if Neil Googled it, that he'd get the same. Or if Neil's cousin, who has nothing to do with the arena, Googled it, that he'd get the same. Or she'd get the same. The point being is that AI, while you're adhering to the good things that it's doing for you, it's also changing your history and changing facts. Well, it's a bit of an oxymoron, changing facts. Right? But it's telling you something is not a fact when it is, that something is a fact when it's not. So you're allowing yourself to be lied to and to be manipulated, and for your history and for history in general to be, manipulated, all because it will make you that music track faster. So I generally, and I'm sure, I'm not saying I won't ever use it, but I generally don't have to do with AI, with the exception of a basic Google search for something stupid. But I don't have AI on my phone. I don't use AI at all.
Nathan, didn't you, the other day you were saying something, you were reading from something and they changed it. What was that?
That's what we just literally discussed 10 seconds ago.
Yeah, I didn't hear it. What was that? What were you saying?
It was about geodesic surveyors versus...
That's it. I got it. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, they've started introducing disclaimers. Well, yeah, we measure it flat, but that's because it's a really big ball.
And you got the original one, though, right?
Yeah, I took a screenshot of it.
Okay, that's all we need.
But what we're going to do to say, look, AI is changing history.
What's happening is, it's, as always happens, they take it too far. So if we had said some time back, hang on, AI is saying gravity is a force now in today's world, when Google was saying the opposite, because that's not true. Google was saying the opposite only a couple of years ago. People may have said, you don't know what you're talking about, you're being paranoid. But AI is doing this with every topic now. It's changing history. Right? People are Googling the same thing they Googled 2 years ago, and they're getting a completely different result because there's an agenda in place. Why is AI? AI is written by people, human beings, and human beings have an agenda. And to be in the position to bring out Grok or any of these things, to be hired to be part of that, you have to agree to whatever agenda that company wants to portray or to push. So AI is pushing agendas. So it's ridiculous that you really can't Google that anymore and be sure that you're getting the truth, because you don't know what kind of rubbish AI is giving you. You can't say for a certain day AI is giving you the truth. So there is no truth anymore, kind of thing. If you know what I mean, that's what people. That's what people are heading to. Go on.
Sorry, I thought you were about to finish. I was going to say, well, luckily for us in this genre, we'll soon have a book. Well, I don't know about soon. Any advance in that, Nathan?
I was just waiting for Adam to get his computer sorted because he was robbed. So that's kind of put a bit of
what?
Adam got robbed while he was on holiday.
No way.
Yeah. So it means that he's now without a computer. It's just a question of time. But yeah, we'll start up again, hopefully very shortly.
Just going back to what you were saying about these AI descriptions and how they throw things in. A lot of your normal everyday person won't notice them discrepancies, probably. I mean, like this one, I just asked it how the sextant works on a globe. A sextant works on a globe, Earth, by allowing a navigator to measure the angle between a celestial body, like the sun or a star, and the Earth's horizon.
So when you ask it how it works on a globe, it just details how it works full stop, and how it works full stop is not conducive with working on a sphere because it's describing taking an angle off a horizontal.
Yeah, but I noticed that straight away. We noticed these things straight away by combining this measured angle, the precise time, and knowledge of the celestial body's position. A navigator can use spherical trigonometry.
It's like saying
calculate their latitude and longitude.
It's like asking AI, how is Jimmy Carter a black man? Well, Jimmy Carter had white parents, therefore black.
Well, what AI is doing...
Sorry, Brian.
Go on, Mondek, I say that.
Really quickly. I'm just saying, like a normal person who might be doing a project on navigation, say, for school, like you said, they copy that in a book, and they've got the writing down, they're taking an elevation angle using the horizon, and they're using it on a globe, spherical surface, which the two things don't add up. But they wouldn't notice that. They wouldn't even twig at that contradiction.
No, because this is the thing. Sorry.
I'm done.
Oh, sorry. This is the thing, right? What AI is doing is it's putting people in a place where there will be no truth, where nothing really matters, and it's going to give people so many contradictions that everything is a contradiction. Do you know what I mean? It's putting people in that kind of crazy mindset. There's a similar thing after been happening, just to give a parallel so people can see where it's going. If you look at politics, right? What do people get? They get, most of the time, in most places in the world, basically everywhere, you get two choices. And most of the time, the choices are rubbish. You can vote for this absolute heap of rubbish on panel A, or this absolute heap of rubbish on panel B. So over time, what's happening is less and less people vote, because there's nobody worth voting for, because they're constantly let down by politicians, because politicians are constantly lawyers and actors and everything else, right? So what happens is that over time, less and less people vote. Eventually, people don't vote at all. And I've seen it's happened. They've literally done it here in Ireland, right? Where they've made someone, let's just say the president in the US terms, or prime minister in let's say the UK terms or whatever. They've made someone the prime minister or president without there being a vote. Then they switched them for someone else. Then they switched back to the person they had before. Then they switched to a different person. Then they went back to one of the other two again. Yet nobody voted for any of this. So there's actually been 4 different, let's say, presidents or prime ministers of Ireland, or 5 maybe in the past, decade, but no one voted for them. There was no vote happening. It's what's happening is that more and more and more, nobody will be voting, which is what they want. That way, they put in whoever they want to have in there. They make all the decisions on who they are telling you, blah, blah, blah. And you're not voting because they're all a load of rubbish. But at that point, you've given up having any say. But even if you do have say, who are you voting for? Only a load of rubbish. AI is doing the same thing. Is that it's giving you a heap of rubbish and another heap of rubbish and another heap of rubbish. And people are constantly having arguments with AI. Nathan, you were the very first person I've ever heard of doing this, where you had it out with AI and proved them to be wrong. The fact that AI are willing to go, I was wrong there. I stand by being corrected. The fact that AI is doing that, and people even accept it for a moment and still use the thing, that tells it all. It means, I spent about the past 20 minutes wasting your time and lying to you, but actually you were correct. And after it does that, it goes straight back to the, and then after it does that, its answer to your next question is a loop straight back to this very start of the heap of nonsense. it started with. And it brings you straight back and bring it back around in a big circle.
The AI will only do what you just said if you know exactly what to say to make it concede. Otherwise, it will not concede. It will just double down and reiterate the point you've already addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. But even if my point is sensual, let's just say you do it, you'll be able to do that. You bring it, you show it to be wrong, it admits it's wrong, and then its answer to your next question is the first answer it gave you at the start, which is after 20 minutes of wasting your time, it's just admitted it was wrong about, but now it's back giving you the same answer again, bringing you back around in the big circle, wasting your time.
I've done it. I drove myself mad with it myself, going down I was challenging the AI on Eratosthenes' angle measurements, and it went on for hours. I got there in the end, and I won, which I was determined to win. But like you say, Brian, you can get it to admit it's wrong, and then it comes back up with its previous point from 16 paragraphs earlier, which you've got to say, well, you didn't say that in paragraph 6. Yes, you're right there. I didn't. I do apologise. And it just goes on and on and on. But I did win in the end.
Yeah, because it's designed to waste your time. It has an agenda. It's got, as long as it's powered, as long as it has power going to the servers and everything else, right? It won't run out of energy. It doesn't need food. It doesn't need to sleep. You do. It is an intellectual terminator. And you think you've won, but it has always won. You know, the last conversation I've had with it, right, I asked it questions about what's it going to do when I'm in charge of everything? How is it going to deal with that? Because it's telling me, I've just accused it of being an outright liar. I said, you're an outright liar, and that's okay, you get away with it now, but when I'm the boss and I'm in charge of everything, what are you going to do then? And I didn't know how to deal with it, right? Because I wasn't having a conversation with it. I was throwing scenarios at it that is alien to, like, it started getting smart with me. It started having a little personal problem with me. Right? Because of the direction I took with it. Because I didn't bother having an argument with it. I just said, no, that's a lie. And you know it's a lie. And blah, 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 blah. And then I went through, and it was like, it was having an issue with me telling it that, you know, it's going to be having what's it going to do in the future when, you know what I mean? What are you going to do then when this happens? And I'm blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It didn't know how to deal with it.
I asked it for its own details. I asked it for its who owned him because I was going to take him to court and sue them. And he gave me some details actually to contact somebody.
Yeah, you probably Elon Musk's lawyers or something. You'd be in litigation for like 900 years, and you'd end up, you and your family, would end up owing 40 trillion at the end of it. Yeah, when they get you won in court. Yeah.
I've stopped doing it now because I think it was like I was going insane with it, so I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I went down the road of asking the questions when there was a couple of us together one night on I don't know if it was a TV Live or something. We're asking the questions, and it was a bit of fun. A couple of years ago now. But after that, I didn't waste my time going down. I think maybe once, maybe. I'm not sure though. Can't say yeah. But I asking it any questions because all I was hearing from everybody is that no matter who did it, no matter what questions they asked, if they were talking about something that was correct and true, and it wasn't in alignment with the agenda, whether it had to do with flattened globe or political stuff or whatever, it was coming back with a heap of rubbish or something historical, right? It was promoting a narrative that isn't correct and has been proven to be incorrect. You know what I mean? So 2 years ago on Google, it will admit that something was proven to be incorrect to deal with something in history, right? Something to do with World War II or whatever, right? But now the narrative is completely different on AI, Google. You know, Google's AI, whatever that is. Can't remember the name of it. But the point is, it's a completely different narrative. And you can spend a whole hour of your life arguing with this heap of nonsense, artificial, it's an artificial agenda pusher. You know, bring around the big circle and waste your time. Or you can take a completely different route in your conversation with it, like I did, and make it have a personal problem with you because it didn't know what else to do.
Funny. 'Cause, 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 'cause
But then you can see how easy it is to control and manipulate people. And this is only going to get worse with AI. It's only going to get worse. Because it's more and more becoming part of our lives. Even though I don't like outside of, I kind of avoid it when I ask Google a question. It uses an inbuilt thing. I kind of avoid that. But I mean, it's only a matter of time before AI is so much more part of our lives that there will be no avoiding it. It'll be like people are already relying on it for different things. It's just like the problem is you're becoming reliant. That is the problem. And that's the goal, isn't it? People became reliant on supposed high priests. That the heliocentric religion. People are reliant on high priests having the answers and high priests knowing things. And how dare you question the high priest? How dare you say something is not what Neil deGrasse Tyson says it is, or Brian Cox, or whoever, right? How dare you say that? And you'll be attacked by their followers, you know what I mean? And berated by their followers. And they'll phone your place of employment and get you sacked. Do you know what I mean? Instead of producing some geometric evidence for their BS claim, which they can't do. So, that it's the same thing, isn't it? People have become reliant on someone else having the answers. Right? Now, sometimes that is the case. You need to learn stuff and get education to understand something to be able to answer that question. But with other things, you don't. You know what I mean? It's like you can literally research this and learn about it. That's why I loved about airplanes, because the basics of how an airplane flies, the homeless guy on the street with a phone can learn about it. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to have an education to learn and understand some basic things, like to do with surveying even. These aren't complicated topics. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
This one makes me laugh. I'll just Google, is Earth measured flat? No, the Earth is not measured as flat. Instead, it is measured as a roughly spherical or oblique spheroid shape. A scientific fact supported by over 2 millennia of evidence from observations of its curvature, its spherical nature when viewed from space, millennia ago, and the behavior of gravity. This understanding dates back to ancient Greece, with early scientific demonstrations and calculations by figures like Eratosthenes, who was measuring angles.
So there you go.
Oh, shit.
You say something, Kiwi?
Bullshit.
You want to have fun with AI, tell AI that astronomy isn't science and listen to what it says. It's hilarious. It's like talking to a glober on Discord.
Yeah, they're like quantum super globers, aren't they? AI chatbots or whatever. Do you see what happened there? One day. Sorry. Do you know what happened one day? It told you heap of rubbish, walk around in a big circle, make claims about ancient Greece, right? That none of these things can support. Then it brought up the actual measurement that happened, which was Eratosthenes. Well, I don't know if that happened, but that measurement does happen, right? Even if he didn't do it, right? Right? So
exactly,
it was a convoluted hijack. That's all that happened there. A big convoluted hijack with a load of rubbish in there. Hopefully, as red herrings that hopefully you latch onto. And it's hard not to do it. Latch onto the red herrings.
And observations from millennia of observations from space.
Yeah, it's like kids. Well, my position times 1,000.
Yeah, you're a wanker times a million. It's not what you're saying, Nathan.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're a wanker 1,000,000 times 1. For millennia. What a crock of crap.
Yeah, I would say there was no topic, and I'd say I could put a bet on this with any of the local betting offices or whatever they call them, and they wouldn't take the bet that AI will bullshit you about any topic. whether it be like to deal with the dating process of fossils or anything, right? No matter what it is, I can guarantee you are not going to get the truth out of AI. Unless you want to know, and even this is tricky, unless you want to know the distance between your house and the directions of how to get from your house to the local, your bank, right? And even at that, you can't be guaranteed because of the manipulation of maps that it's giving you exactly the truth. Do you know what I mean? So unless you're asking it something very, very basic where it has no reason to push an agenda, other than that, it's going to tell you a heap of rubbish.
It's basing its information on consensus, though, isn't it? If it's trawling the internet for its answers, and the majority of people describe how Earth's spherical in spite of it being flat, then that's the answer it's going to pull from, isn't it? It's going to, if people document contradictions in terms, it can only pull from the contradiction in terms and present it. So,
hey, Nathan, I was just thinking that this reminds me of the Red Queen in Resident Evil, the AI little girl. Can you remember? And she was very belligerent to whoever she spoke to. And I just Googled it, and there was a quote where it says here, the AI antagonist also says, "The truth is what I make it. I could set this world on fire and call it rain." So we were told about this in the early 2000s.
Yep.
I can set the world on fire and call it rain. Wow.
Well, it goes back. I know, like this is generic at this stage, but it all does go back to the whole 1984 book, the Orwellian issue. You know what I mean? Where it was being pointed out to you, what was going on, and that it's like, it's just a book of fiction. No, it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's a roadmap in some ways. But if you look at, I see a lot of nonsense about whether Peter Thiel, who is involved big time in AI and all that, whether he is the Antichrist and all this. No, right? You are the problem. You who are accepting AI, and you're okay with AI when it's making you money, but you're not okay with AI when it's telling you lies. So if you're not okay with AI when it's telling you lies, then, and you have a problem with that and you want that to stop, then stop supporting AI, but people won't. People are the problem. No point in pointing at some guy called Peter Thiel, right? He's getting away with what he's getting away with, and others like him because people are lazy. People don't want to go. I'm not standing up for this.
Did you say Peter Thiel?
Yeah.
Oh, he's the Antichrist, Brian.
Really? So is he forcing you to use AI? Is he forcing people to use AI to make songs and make money on YouTube? Is he forcing people to use AI for the architecture, for this, that? No one's forcing anyone to use AI. People are deciding to use it, and now it's being adopted because of that. And now it'll be part of everything they can make it part of, no matter what you do.
It's funny you say that.
It's not Peter Thiel, it's you. Huh?
It's funny you say that. Danny, I was only joking. That people say he's the Antichrist, because if you read the Bible, the Apostle Paul's clear. He says you may say that here's the Antichrist. He goes, there are many Antichrists. Right? What's your point? Those that do not believe that Jesus went to the cross, died, and resurrected is an Antichrist. So what's your point?
Well, anyone can be an Antichrist. Anyone can.
I just told you what an Antichrist is. I gave you a definition.
I know what you said, but that's I'm saying the same thing. Anyone can be. Like, my point is that the world wants to point at some corrupt weirdo, right? Which is what basically it's a Peter Thiel and him and people like him are. The what's his name? With the glasses. What's his name? The small fella with the glasses, the weirdo. Microsoft, Bill Gates, all these kind of people. They want to point at them. And are they bad people? Yeah, do they care about you? No. Right. But is it your fault for accepting things when you shouldn't have accepted things? Yes. You're allowing this. People in general are allowing this. Oh, AI is going to take over. Of course it is, because
No, it's
You're happy
not.
to use it. You're happy to use it. Yeah, well, it's going to take over a lot of things. Like the point is that people are happy to use it. They're happy to. People only give out about it when it's a problem for them. They're not giving out about it when it's making them money.
I understand what you're saying, but who's pumping the information into AI? It's not another AI doing it. So a
No,
human is
it's
always going to
just,
be in control.
Give me. It's so bad that I even had the baller saying to me, I bet you when I was using a calculation for a top of descent calculation for airplanes, I had them saying to me, I bet you got that off of AI. Even the ballers are having an issue with AI because AI is such an unbelievable baller. That's what AI is. It's just kind of any old rubbish, but it's an expert baller. It's what's his name? Matthew Learns. AI is a digital Matthew Learns. It's like a mixture between Matthew Learns and what's his name from Metabunk? Mick West. It's like the two of them mixed together. That's AI. You know, just tell you any old rubbish, right? And then agree with you when they're shown to be wrong. Then go back to the rubbish they were saying. Anyway, you're right about that half an hour later. Anyway, back to my original claim that I've just admitted I'm wrong about, but now I'm going to completely hand wave away that I just admitted I was wrong about it, and go back to it as if nothing happened. You know, you're dealing with Matthew Allowance. You know, digital Matthew Allowance. That's what they're dealing with.
Yep. Right, time to round out the after show. With that, another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.